I, a 42-year-old man, am getting frustrated with my wife's, who's 37, phone habits. I am a 42-year-old man, and my wife, who is 37, has always been a very chatty woman. She's pretty much on the phone all day with her sister-in-law, her friends, family members, etc. She hangs up with one, and she either calls another one, or another one calls her. This hasn't bothered me. I'm not home all day, but recently it started to interfere with the time we spend together. I come down to breakfast and she's on the phone. Literally, the entire time I'm sitting there, she's gossiping on the phone with someone. That used to be our time to talk in the morning, but now she sits there and talks to other people. I brought this up to her and she simply said, "But she works. That's the only time I have to speak to her." Yeah, but what about me? This has also extended to dinner time. I arrive home, she'll have this big dinner cooked, and just as we're sitting down to eat, her phone will ring. She'll tell me and the kids to go ahead and eat, pick it up, walk away from the dinner table, and start talking. In the past, if I got a work call during dinner, she would chastise me for it. "You can call them back. This is dinner time. They need to understand. You're with your family. You're not taking that call now." This weekend, we were supposed to go out for dinner on Sunday night. She got a call from one of her friends as we were getting ready to leave, which she just kept prolonging. I kept pointing to my watch, making the wrap it up sign with my hands, and she kept swatting the air, telling me to leave her alone. 2 hours passed when we were supposed to leave. She finally got off the phone with Dana, at which point she said, "It's really too late to go out now. I'm tired. Let's just do leftovers." When I kept slamming cabinets and huffing at her, she said, "Wow, you've got a hair across your butt today. What's your problem?" I responded, "My problem is we had plans and you blew them off to BS on the freaking phone for 2 hours. That's my problem. And then you say I've got a hair across my butt. Don't even freaking start with me tonight." She said that she hadn't talked to Dana all day and needed to catch up. Wait, what? And there wasn't any other time for her to do it. Sorry. All day? I thought you were going to say like all year or something. All day? Wait, so she talks to Dana every day for like a couple of hours or whatever? That's insane. I told her that's unacceptable and we need to start blocking time off that both of us reserve for each other. She said that's stupid. We live together. We shouldn't have to do that. She agreed that we would have a do-over and go out for breakfast yesterday morning. We planned to leave the house at 9. 8:30. I was sitting down on the couch waiting for her. 9 rolls around and nothing. 9:15, still nothing. 9:30 comes and I went upstairs. I hear her laughing and I walk in to find her not showered, sitting on the bed in her pajamas with the phone in her hand. "Hang up the phone," I said. "Let's go." "I'm on the phone," she shouted. "Sorry, Dana, what was that?" I ripped the phone out of her hand, wow, and said into it, "Hi Dana, we're going to breakfast this morning and Tammy can't talk right now. She'll call you back another time. Goodbye." I then hung up the phone, turned it off, and put it in my pocket. My wife went crazy, demanding I give her the phone back, screaming that I had no right to control her time and that she wasn't going to be manipulated. I responded, "No, you're right. You shouldn't have to be manipulated into spending time with me. If you were a decent human being, you would know that's something you should prioritize, not see it as a chore. I'm freaking done. You've obviously made your choice." So, we're pretty much at an impasse. We haven't spoken much since yesterday morning. She said she has nothing to say unless I apologize and return her phone. I told her that if her biggest concern is having a phone right now, then we have nothing to talk about. I've tried offering solutions, but she's so obsessed with that goddamn phone that I don't think she's even hearing me. Alright, before I get into my thoughts on this one, I've just picked out this comment from down below. Now, this comment was actually downvoted by quite a lot of people, and OP responded to it. Listen to this. "I don't think you're behaving like a rational human being at all. Huffing, slamming cabinets, taking her phone right out of her hands and putting it in your pocket. You're acting like a child and you're being whiny and passive aggressive with her. It doesn't matter that she's behaving poorly." With that said, however, how hard would it be to say, "Honey, when we have time together, I need you to be present with me. Full stop." I kind of get this comment a little bit, but I don't particularly think OP's being childish. I mean, maybe there's a better way to go about it than ripping your partner's phone out of their hand. I probably wouldn't do that. But then again, I'd hate to be in a position where I would feel like I'd have to do that. And it feels like anyway, got to that stage where if you ask her politely, nothing's ever going to change. So something had to be done. Anyway, OP replied to this saying, well, you're partially right. My actions as of late are extreme, passive-aggressive, and childish. I hate it. I hate being like this, and I honestly don't think it's healthy. Yeah, fair enough. Very self-aware from OP. It does sound like the sort of person that huffing and slamming cabinets isn't normal for him, but he's just been pushed to this. So why am I doing it, OP asks? Because it's sadly the only thing that gets through. Yeah, exactly. There you go. She has a bit of persecution complex. When I said to her, I'm gone from 7:30 a.m. until 6 p.m. It's important to me that we have dinner as a family. I would appreciate it if you didn't take calls during the one meal we all have as a family. Her response was, fine, I won't talk to my friends. After all, I only exist to be your wife. When you're around, I should drop everything to talk to you. I'll just tell my friends that my husband says I can't talk to them anymore. Meanwhile, I pay the phone bill. She's on the phone with people for between 5 to 6 hours a day while I'm not here. That's insane, by the way. If I try being calm, rational, and addressing the issue, she denies that there is an issue, making it seem as if I'm telling her not to talk to anyone, and she acts as if she's so isolated. That could not be further from the truth. When I was having one of these talks with her, her phone rang. I said, please let that go through to voicemail. This is important. She replied, I have to get this. I'm expecting this call from Beth. Well, call her back, please. We're not done, I replied. Well, I don't have anything else to say, she responded and picked up the phone. From what I heard of their conversation, it was pure gossip and BSing. So, as mean as it sounds, I'm through being nice. I'm through handling this with kid gloves, and I'm through with her ignoring this and making me feel as if I'm asking too much of her to actually acknowledge me and her kids during the few waking hours we're home. I mean, that's another great point. Where are the kids in all of this? Like, if they're not getting any attention from their mum, that's really, really bad, to be fair. And it sounds as if, like, she's either just doing this to, I don't know, cause a huge rift, like she's doing it on purpose because maybe she wants a divorce or she just doesn't want to be around you or the kids anymore, and that's one thing. Or she just has a genuine problem and has got to the stage where she is like addicted to her phone and addicted to calling her and her friends calling her back and stuff like that. I'm not exactly sure which one it is. I'd be surprised if it's the former. I think it's probably the latter. And I do know people that are like pretty addicted to their phone. I don't know people like to this extent where they are calling people for 5-6 hours a day, but I definitely know a few people in my life who are chronically online. I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, but like they are online the whole time, and if you send them a message, they will see it instantly, reply instantly. It doesn't really matter what they're doing. I'm not the best with that myself, to be fair. I probably am on my phone too much. For me, it is a little bit different though, because I use WhatsApp for work, for example, and contacting people, and I sort of have to be online to be able to actually work throughout the day. Whereas a lot of people I know, or some people I know, for example, probably don't have to do that, but they are on their phones, and it is pretty easy to get addicted to social media, instant messaging, I imagine phone calling as well. But when it gets to this stage, 5-6 hours a day, and you don't realize you have a problem because you're just saying, well, I'm chatting to my friends, sure, and there's nothing wrong with that, but there is something wrong with ignoring your husband and your kids. So I suppose the question I'm asking myself is, do I think she's doing this on purpose or not? And do I think she's doing this maliciously? I don't. I think she just has a problem. Anyway, 1 year later, we got this update. Hey everyone, it's been about a year since I posted, and I thought I'd give everyone an update on how everything went down. It's not the happiest news, but I know people were interested, so I'll share what happened. So, right after I posted, I gave my wife her phone back. In doing this, I said to her, I don't believe I was wrong to be frustrated with you, but it's not my right to take your phone away. I'm going to give this back to you, but with it, I want you to take note of the fact that every time you take a long phone call on it, you are choosing someone else over your family. You are choosing to give that time to someone who is not here while there are family members here who miss you. Wow, that is scathing, but so valid. She snatched the phone back and said, don't talk to me like a child. It's my phone and I'll do what I want with it. In short, things never got better. She was always on it. Dinners were missed, kids felt neglected, and there were days when we didn't say a word to each other because every moment I was home, she was yakking away on the phone. The final straw came at our daughter's 8th grade graduation last June. Right in the middle of the ceremony, her phone rang. At the beginning, they had told everyone to turn off their phones, but apparently that didn't apply to her. I put my hand on her knee and said, "No, not here, turn it off." She pulled it out of her purse, picked up the call, and walked out of the auditorium. She missed our daughter walking across the stage. When everything was over, our son and I collected our daughter, and the first words out of her mouth were, "Where's Mum?" We found her outside of the school, leaning up against the building, laughing and gabbing away on her phone. When she saw us, she ended her call and ran over to our daughter and gave her a hug. "Oh, sweetie, you look so great. Congratulations, you did it." When my daughter asked where she was, she claimed that an important call came in right after she walked across and she had to take it. She was lying to our daughter to take a BS phone call. We went to dinner and I didn't speak a word to her. She picked up on this and asked me what was wrong when we got home. I told her, "You've made your choice very clear, Tammy. Thank you." She asked me, "Well, what the heck is that supposed to mean?" I said, "You've chosen the phone over your family. That is clear to everyone." The following Monday, I met with an attorney and I began the process of filing for divorce. A lot of this is a blur, so forgive me if I get the order a bit confused, but I'll give you a summary of what happened. 1. My wife was served with divorce papers at home. She flipped, saying I was trying to control her behavior, treating her like a child, and that I was punishing her because she had to take a phone call. 2. She ordered me to get out the house. As I'd been the only one caring for our kids for the past few months, and summer was starting soon, I refused to do this. I told her that she was welcome to go, but as I was paying for the mortgage and caring for our kids, I'd not be leaving. 3. My wife left and said she was staying with her sister until I came to my senses. She accused me of upending our children's lives right as our son goes into middle school and our daughter goes into high school because we'd have to sell the house. 4. When we bought the house, my wife paid the entire down payment out of her mother's life insurance. My father and brother both generously loaned me money to cover half the value of the house, as well as the down payment. My attorney contacted her, as she had not yet retained an attorney, and told her I wanted to buy her out of the house. He urged her to retain an attorney to review everything. She opted to accept the settlement and signed a, forgive me if I get this wrong, quitclaim deed, essentially removing any legal interest she has in the property. And 5, I closed our bank accounts, had a cashier's check issued for half the value, and had it sent registered mail to her at her sister's house. She signed for it, no problem. I took our children's college funds, which were previously only in my name, and I had my attorney put them into a trust, naming my brother and her sister as trustees. Only with both of their signatures can money be drawn from those accounts, so neither of us has the right to draw on those. It's a lot for my kids to understand, and I try my best not to paint their mother in a negative light. She hasn't made any great effort to see them during this time and keeps telling the kids when she does see them that this is temporary and she'll be back soon. I'm leaping off of a brilliant comment here by someone who said, "Give her the dang phone back and make like Tammy Wynette in a spelling bee." She has a song called Divorce, which I think she spells out letter for letter. Interesting reference, very well played to be fair. My wife, who has not worked since we got married, I did assume that by the way when I was reading this, although I was still questioning, if you're on the phone for 5 to 6 hours during the day, how do you have time to do the other stuff that you would need to do as a stay-at-home parent? Anyway, whatever. She realized that anything she could buy outright for half the value of our house was like Elvis Presley looking for housing in Chicago. She's since retained an attorney and is attempting to get the quitclaim deed invalidated, claiming she's entitled to half the proceeds of the sale of the home as a marital asset. My attorney has told me she has no chance of prevailing in this action and that she signed in about 10 different places saying that she was waiving her right to outside representation and review, in spite of my attorney urging her to utilise an attorney of her own. The courts have been shut down since March, so nothing has moved ahead since then, but God willing, this will be wrapped up by the end of the year. My soon-to-be ex-wife doesn't seem to grasp how serious this is, but at this point, I don't care. She made her choice, and I made mine. Working from home, I get to see my kids all day, and I've never been happier. That's a great ending. As long as you're happy, and you've never been happier, you know what? Your kids are probably happy as well, and they've probably never been happier. She just sounds like a very neglectful woman that wasn't doing any of you any good. Final comment before I give my final thoughts. Somebody said, I'm curious, what is it that was so important in those phone talks that she blew her own marriage over? Did you ever listen into her conversations? Was she an expert explaining how to stop a nuclear reactor from entering meltdown, teaching a 15-year-old how to land a crippled 777 after both the pilot and co-pilot suffered food poisoning, a hostage negotiator? I mean, we don't even need to read OP's reply here. I already know the answer. The conversations were so pointless and mundane, they didn't even need to be had. Your wife was just addicted to phone calls, and probably still is, and I think that's it really. Or she's just completely lost the plot and has always just been crazy, but I just don't get that impression. I think she just had an addiction and doesn't realise how neglectful that's causing her to be in her actual real important life. OP replied saying, it was literally gossiping and talking with friends. She didn't see it as a problem. No matter how many times I nicely asked her to put the phone away, I was ignored. I went from asking nicely, to firmly, to telling gently, to telling firmly, to demanding, and she did not respond to any of it. Regardless of my feelings, she was going to take that call. It was one thing when it was ignoring me, but when I saw her lying to my daughter and choosing her addiction, because yes, that's what I'm calling it, over her, I had enough. I mean, sorry. Can I just say, I called it an addiction before OP did reading this, and I said when it comes to neglecting her kids, that is when it gets too far. I mean, neglecting your husband's one thing, your kids is too far. I called that as well. Maybe I am a prophet. Anyway, to round this off, OP says she wasn't willing to seek help. She wasn't willing to admit she had a problem. So I was done. And there we go. That is pretty sad, to be honest with you, that somebody can have children and have a loving husband and just have the most pointless conversations on the phone all day. You know what it is as well, because I reckon some of you might be thinking, well, you know, it wasn't just her that was on the phone. She was getting phone calls and other people were talking on the phone for hours as well. Yes, but I don't think they were talking all day long on the phone. Like, I imagine that OP, if you imagine like a mind map around OP, and these are all the people, these are all her friends that are calling her and she's calling them. She's in the center, right? I reckon everyone else is sort of just calling her. Maybe like, you know, one or two other friends, like normal how you would phone your friend or whatever. Not going around like your entire social network, calling them all consistently all day, every day, right? It's clear to me, and it has been clear from the moment I started reading this, that OP's ex had an addiction. And I feel sorry for her that she has that. But her inability to understand how it's affecting her life and see how neglectful she's being to her family, I don't feel sorry for her about that at all. That's just on her. And if she's not willing to fix it, then OP definitely made the right decision. Seems like he was pretty comfortable with it, and the fact that he's happier now than ever is genuinely great news. Hopefully, I mean, if you want to, that is, you can find someone in the future who would actually be a good stepmom for your kids and wouldn't be on the phone for 5 to 6 hours a day. I do feel bad for your kids though. Like, imagine that, an 8-year-old on their big day and your mum is just on the phone talking about absolute rubbish. I'd be gutted. Sorry, she's not 8, she's 8th grade graduate. I mean, that's even worse, right? I mean, not worse, but she's even older. Like, God, mental, absolutely mental. But there we go. My girlfriend found out that I lied about me and my friends playing fantasy football, and I know I screwed up big time. This was originally posted on September 21st, 2025. I know it was wrong to lie to my girlfriend, and I probably should have just told her the truth. I lied because I didn't want to hurt her or upset her, but I realized it was still a lie. I've been playing fantasy football with some friends for years. We're all big sports fans, but football is the biggest. Last season, one of the guys dropped out of our fantasy league because he said it was taking up too much of his time and he was afraid it was pushing him into a gambling problem. We needed another player, and my girlfriend watches football, so we asked her to play. I know I'm going to catch heat for saying this, but it wasn't as fun playing with her as I thought it would be. I don't know if it was beginner's luck or what, but she pretty much destroyed the rest of us all season. It wasn't fun losing to her. So, this season we just decided to tell her that we're not playing this year. I didn't want to at first, but the other guys insisted. We invited the new brother-in-law of one of the other guys to play instead. I just told her that everyone was too busy to play this year and she didn't question it. On Thursday night, we slipped up and she found out we are still playing. She had to go to work, but she was annoyed. She's been frosty since she got home Friday morning. Next weekend, we're supposed to go to an out-of-state wedding. Her family isn't from Chicago, but now she said she wants to go by herself. I tried to explain it, but it just made her mad. It's nothing personal, no one hates her or anything. I know I'm going to catch heat in the comments. Every time I try to explain it, it makes it worse. I screwed up. There's no way around it. But she is so upset and I don't know what to do to make it better. I know I effed up. Okay, let's jump straight into the comments here before we get to the update. Somebody said, "You definitely messed up. This won't even be about excluding her from something, but about how you were okay lying to her. The key to relationships is communication. My only suggestion for your current situation would be to man up, take full responsibility, and apologize. Then sit down and have an honest conversation with her about why you did what you did and what you plan to do to make sure communication is honest going forward. If you're lucky and you work for it, you'll be able to build up trust again." Opie replied saying, "Yeah, I know you're right. I make no excuses, and I realize I screwed up. Every time I try to explain, I make it worse. I did apologize, but she doesn't want to hear it right now. I understand why she's mad, and I don't make any excuses for lying or hiding it. I should have stuck to my guns when the other guys insisted." Someone else said, "Well, don't try to deflect it onto the other guys. They're not in this relationship. You are. For now. They didn't decide to lie. You did. Own up to it and take the consequences." That's a good point. They never once said, "Well, we're not going to tell her," because obviously you would be the one to decide to tell her or not. You're with her. And then in support of that comment, someone else said, "Nah, you were happy to go along with the guys, even though you knew it meant doing something hurtful to your girlfriend. Getting validation and approval from them was more important than your girlfriend's feelings, and that is 100% on you." Alright, let's get into the update, which was posted over 2 months later on December the 2nd. So, it's over. I know I screwed up and the writing was on the wall. The worst part is that I have no excuses. I know how badly I effed this up. I'm not even looking for sympathy here. When my girlfriend got back from the wedding, she asked me why I lied to her. I didn't have an answer for her. All my explanations just made it worse and didn't really explain anything. I tried to apologize, but she didn't want to hear it. It was the worst week of my life. It was almost like she was freezing me out. At one point, she asked me if we ever talked about her in the group chat for our fantasy league. I didn't even have to answer. She just said, "It's not nice, right?" And I think that was the turning point. I never want to see her cry, and the worst part is knowing I did this because I was stupid and didn't stand up to my friends. She said she doesn't think we're compatible and we shouldn't date anymore. She didn't want to accept my apologies, and I understand, and I won't bother her now. She went to stay with her family for another week, and now I've heard she came back because of her job, pharmacist, and now she's staying with friends. But I'll leave her alone. I'm looking for another place to live because our lease is up at the end of the month. She left 2 weeks ago and it feels empty. And the worst part is, I know it's my fault. I barely care about watching football now, and normally I'd be excited about it because my team's in first place. If you take anything away from my post, don't put your friends over the person you love. Learn to stand up to your friends. I learned my lesson after all of this. Now, the top comment on this was, "So what were you guys saying about her in the group chat then?" And someone else said, "Probably just some unexamined misogyny disguised as humor, I'm sure." So look, we obviously don't know for sure what was being posted in that group chat, what you guys were talking about in relation to OP's girlfriend, but you know, I can imagine it probably wasn't that good. Let's just be completely realistic. The sad thing about all of this, in my opinion, is that it wasn't as if, you know, she was doing something really bad, or even she was really bad at the game, she wasn't enjoying it, she was doing something to affect all of your guys' enjoyment, but in like a negative way, like her doing it on purpose or something. It was just that she was better than all of you, consistently as well, by the way. I'm not 100% sure how fantasy football works over in the US with American football, but I think from reading what OP said, it wasn't beginner's luck at all. She was beating you all each and every week. I think it works slightly differently where you can't have any of the same players, and I think you can pick different players each week. I might be wrong on that. let me know in the comments down below if you do play fantasy football. But yeah, I mean, she was just destroying you, and for that reason, your mates couldn't deal with it. That's just so embarrassing, on the one hand. What's more embarrassing than that is that you couldn't stand up to them and say, no, stop being such little female dogs, for want of a better word, and just get good. Simple as that. Like, why are you complaining that my girlfriend is beating you? That's on you. There's something about men that can't handle women beating them when it comes to sports, which is just like disgusting. It's so bad. I feel like they wouldn't even care if like one of their mates was beating them, but no, because it's your girlfriend and she's a girl, and I'm assuming here, but this is probably what's going on. That is why they were like, nah, we got to kick her out. And also, like, if it was genuinely beginner's luck, then surely they'd be like, well, next season, of course you can play. If it was beginner's luck, we'll beat you next year. But the fact that they don't want you in there at all, and they're probably saying some pretty horrible things in the group chat, yeah, I'm not sure about that. Some of you guys may not know this about me, but I actually have another YouTube channel which I run called Fantasy Football Hub, where I make videos about Fantasy Premier League. So that's football or soccer in the UK. So I love fantasy football a lot. And my sister, who is not as into football as me, but is into football, has beaten me in FPL, Fantasy Premier League. That's a season-long game over 38 weeks before, and it's now like sort of my part-time job to make videos about it. I've been on Sky Sports, a major broadcaster in the UK, talking about it. Now, imagine if I was like, oh my god, I'm so butthurt, you're a girl, you know less about sport than me, and you've beaten me, and we can never be in a league together again. What sort of a person would that make me? That's just so embarrassing, like all these guys. Anyway, let's get into our second story of this episode. My boyfriend believes that we shouldn't be together because his female friend told him our zodiac signs are not compatible. This is slowly getting ridiculous. My boyfriend of 2 years has a female friend. They've been close since middle school, so she's been in his life more than most of his other friends. He's 21. I guess this is why he listens to her and her opinions on a lot of matters, including on our relationship, which I found out recently. What's happening is that every time we have a fight, he was going to her to vent about our problems. I was okay with this for a long time, never really thought something would be wrong. They were friends for a long time. I trust him and wasn't jealous of their friendship. But for a few months, I've noticed a bit of a change in my boyfriend's behavior after our fights. Instead of trying to resolve things like we always do, he would get passive aggressive, ignore me for days, and throw around, well, maybe we should break up, quite often. I was really surprised because our fights aren't that serious. For example, ever since we moved in together, we have this agreement that I cook our meals and he cleans everything afterwards. For a week or so, he wouldn't, no matter how many times I asked, because, as he said, Leos don't like to be pushed around. Yeah, every time we fight, he'd just say some stupid stuff like that. So I confronted him yesterday and asked what has gotten into him. Apparently, his female friend has gotten into astrology, and she's decided that we are not compatible because I'm a Cancer and he's a Leo. He then blamed our little fight on our signs' incompatibility and told me that she's pretty spot on with her descriptions of our relationship, and he started to believe that we're not a good match. This is so stupid that I honestly thought he was joking, but nope. Now I'm thinking if this is even worth fighting for. I don't believe in astrology. I don't think it's an answer to all the problems that we face, but he is certain that it is because his female friend told him so. I was thinking about meeting up with her, but I don't know if I should, or maybe with both of them to see what the problem really is. Part of me doesn't want to throw away this relationship. It's been a good 2 years where he wasn't acting like an idiot, but another part of me is bewildered by the amount of stupidity of my boyfriend and his friend. Alright, let's get straight to the comments here. I can't quite believe what I've just read. First of all, that someone could be so easily influenced. Then that, this female friend, what is she trying to achieve here? Anyway, somebody said, do you really want to be with someone so gullible and weak-minded? Which I think is a fair question. Like, if your boyfriend can be this easily led by something that I think is, quite frankly, absolutely ridiculous, and don't worry, I'll get into my own thoughts about zodiac and star signs later on, then it's a good question. Like, do you want to be with someone like that? Opie replied saying, to be fair, he hasn't been like that for a whole 2 years that we've been together, just recently. I'm thinking if there's something going on between them, and this astrology BS is just a way to end things on their terms, maybe. Yeah, I think that could be what's going on. The female friend may just be deciding to try and get you two to break up. Who knows what her intentions are, but it definitely seems that way. Although, again, I do massively blame your boyfriend for this, unless he is also secretly trying to break up with you and finding an excuse. Someone else said, it could be his way of finding an out. Literally exactly what I was just saying. If he's throwing around suggestions of breaking up during every fight, and now he's using zodiac signs as a reason to break up, then he sounds like he's just looking for reasons to end it. He could very well have feelings for this girl, but even if he doesn't sound like a good boyfriend. I would leave. Very good advice there, in my opinion. Next, someone said, or maybe the friend wants to get with him and is manipulating him. He's pretty stupid to fall for it, especially like this, but still, yeah, I agree, that could well be happening. But I don't think that takes away from the fact that your boyfriend is being ridiculously gullible here, or very easily manipulated. And I think that leads to the same questions. Do you want to be with someone that is this easily led away from you? I think that's pretty insane. Finally, someone said, I was thinking the same. I wouldn't be surprised if the friend's sign is miraculously hyper-compatible with OP's boyfriend. Yeah, maybe. But again, like, I feel like there are always going to be, or quite often, there'll be challenges in relationships, right? And you'll get people like this that aren't good for either you or your partner, and they're just trying to get their own way. Ultimately, if you're not strong enough, then that's on you. But I think what's going on here is that secretly OP's boyfriend is looking for an out. They can't be that gullible to suddenly just be like, oh, my female friend is completely right. I've never believed in astrology before, but she must be right. All right, anyway, let's get into the update and see if there was a resolution here. This was posted 2 months later. I've decided to post a follow-up because my original post gained a lot of attention. I've received plenty of advice and many things have happened ever since the post. Be prepared for a long ride. The whole situation is a great lesson to me, and I'm working on myself now to stop being so naive and gullible. We're not together anymore, which is a good thing, but we didn't break up right away. I ended up confronting my boyfriend about his friend, her input in our relationship, and him seeking validation from her. As many of you have guessed, there was much more to their friendship than I knew about. I'm not sure how far they went to this day, but to the people that were saying that they're using this whole zodiac incompatibility as an excuse, you were right. We took a break at first, because when I decided that I wanted to end things on my own terms, my now ex-boyfriend switched the narrative. Surprisingly enough, he decided he's not ready to let me go, and that he will cut out his friend if it meant we'd stay together. And I was stupid enough to believe him. Lamau. 1 week later, I've decided that I will give my boyfriend another chance. We decided on new boundaries and everything was going smoothly for the first 2 weeks. That is until I noticed that my boyfriend is being suspicious with his phone, taking it with him even when he's taking a bath. One time, he forgot to mute his phone, and I heard the Facebook Messenger signal coming from the bathroom while he was supposedly taking a bath. I've never ever checked his phone before, and I wasn't planning to, so I just asked him to show me his messages. I guess he was surprised because I never was the type to check what he's up to, so he got quite defensive, but I wasn't planning on giving up. We had a whole argument about me not trusting him, to which I agreed that I don't, and he should just show me his phone so we can be done with it. And he did. Guess what I found out? He's still in contact with his astrology-obsessed friend, and their conversations aren't exactly friendly banter. Me finding out led to even more of an argument in which my boyfriend admitted to cheating on me with his friend, blamed it on me being a Cancer and him being a Leo. Again, oh my god, that is phenomenal. That is crazy. Then proceeded to tell me the only reason why he was fighting to stay with me is because, as a Cancer, I'm very, quote, homely, and living with me is great, but I don't give him the thrill that his Sagittarius friend is giving him. What have I just read? Very rarely am I gobsmacked these days on Reddit after over 7 years of doing this. Well, almost 7 years. It's coming up to 7 years. What? Wow. So, yeah, I kicked him out. I'm on the lease anyways, and when he tried to argue to let him stay for a few days until he finds his own apartment, I told him that as a Cancer, I'm not sure I can control my emotions and not murder him in his sleep. And that is how my ex became my ex. What I've learned from this is 1. To avoid anyone who believes in astrology as a romantic partner, and 2. To be more wary of my future partner's friendships, as many things may not be what they seem. Oh my god. I feel like I just want to give a round of applause to this one. A few lines there. I'm going to have to just reread them because they are just so good. Your boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, blamed him cheating on you being a Cancer and him being a Leo. He blamed cheating on star signs. It's just incredible. Incredible. I've been just unbelievable. And he wants to stay with you because you're homely and living with you is great. Like, as in quotes from what a Cancer is supposed to be. How about you just make your own mind up after 2 years of being with somebody? Like, surely you have a better idea as to whether or not someone is homely and living with them is great after 2 years of living with someone than some random basic I don't want to like get too harsh here, but like complete load of bull astrology zodiac rubbish. And I do want to say, I know that probably quite a few people watching this and listening to this are into their star signs and their zodiac. I'm not like completely rubbishing it, although I don't believe in it at all, so I sort of am. I do think in this situation it's a completely ludicrous thing to break up with somebody because your star signs don't align. I mean, that is just absolutely ridiculous. Even more ridiculous is the fact that you can tell that your ex-boyfriend OP had no idea about zodiacs and star signs before this, and astrology was just not a thing. It's only become a thing because he was cheating on you. Let's be honest. Unbelievable. Great response from you as well, by the way, saying that as a Cancer, you're not sure you can control your emotions and you may murder him in the night. Just that is chef's kiss. That is phenomenal. Look, I'm not the biggest fan of star signs at all. I think it's a load of bull. And if you've listened and watched this far into the video, then you probably would have been able to guess that from knowing me well, is all I'd say, if you've been around on the channel for a while. Not my thing. Load of absolute trash, if you ask me, but especially in this scenario. Just absolutely ridiculous to blame cheating on a star sign. So elite. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this one. As I mentioned during that, it's not often that I get speechless on Reddit anymore, because I've seen a lot of stuff, and if you've been around for the last 6.5, 7 years, you would have heard a lot of stuff as well. That is right up there for me with one of the most ridiculous things I've read. That little short paragraph. Just insane. Tomorrow, I am ending it with my abusive boyfriend of 4.5 years, and I'm out of my mind. Can the female hive mind of Reddit please just tell me it will be okay? This was originally posted on November the 2nd, 2025. It's all safely planned. Meeting in a public place. A friend waiting nearby with transport. Landlord coming to change the locks. Got a long-term therapist. Distant family, but a good support network of friends who are gathering round hard. Ella Fitzgerald's Let No Man Write My Epitaph has been playing on repeat all day. It feels strange and unsafe, but not wrong. So much more than so many women who are or have been in my situation, and yet I can't breathe. I'm scared of his reaction or reactions, but I plan for most of them. I'm scared he's going to twist my head and heart until I can't remember who I am or what I need to say, and he'll get his way like he always does. I'm scared of what it's going to be like on the other side. Can someone please just tell me it will be okay? Alright, let's jump straight into the comments. Somebody said, it will be okay. You've made good plans. It will be okay. You have good people to help. It will be okay. Don't listen to anything he says. It will be okay. Somebody replied to this saying, I'm actually hijacking this comment to say you absolutely do not have to actually meet him in person to end things. Please do not do so out of some sense of social politeness or obligation. You owe him nothing. Someone else said, if you feel physically or emotionally endangered meeting with him, you don't have to meet with him. Oftentimes, the situation calls for the perpetrator to find out after the victim has left or put their stuff outside. Remember, you don't need his approval. Victims often get stuck because they try to get their abuser's approval for their leaving. It's not on you to soothe him. You each take care of yourselves. Best of luck. You got this. Actually, very good advice. And someone else said, yeah, honey, you don't need to meet him to end things. Send him a text and be gone forever. You can do it. Please update us. This, please post again tomorrow and the next day and the next day, just to say I'm still here and it's okay. And then finally somebody said the most dangerous thing you can do is give him another chance. Yeah, great advice there. I know the first comment was a good one, saying it will be okay, but maybe the best advice was to say you don't need to meet him at all. Just text him saying it's over and that'll do. Now, sometime in the next 12-ish hours, we got this update. I've just woken up to what feels like half the women in the world behind me, and I can't even begin to describe how much this means. I'm reading through every single comment, and I can feel each one wrapping around my heart like armor. Thank you so much for every single word of kindness and support. The honesty is overwhelming. What a testament to both the primal courage of women and the depth and width of this freaking problem. To those expressing valid concern about my meeting him in person, I fully understand, but there are some practical reasons for this, and it's been assessed as safe by the professionals involved. And then the next day, we got the following update. The girl did good. She's exhausted, but safe at home and okay. I got there 30 minutes early, got a coffee, picked a spot well covered by CCTV, and grounded myself in every thoughtful and generous comment here, and the care of everyone who took the time to respond. I'm so grateful. My friend flashed the headlights. The staff member I'd forewarned gave me a nod. The travel-sized deodorant sat in my pocket, ready to meet some eyeballs. I didn't need any of it. This conversation was mine, long overdue, and with the force of a runaway train. The plan was followed, and what I needed to say, which I've feared saying for so long, came so clearly and easily because every word felt like it came from all the women before me and around me. So thanks for that. It was everything I thought I could never do. I was clear, I was calm, I handed back anything he tried to land on me. I was in control, and there was a surprising amount of honesty and listening on his part once he realised I would not afford space for any debate. I've drawn the lines that needed to be drawn, and boy oh boy did it hurt, but it hurt good. I'm not foolish enough to believe he'll accept this completely and immediately. I'm on guard and will continue to be cautious and think of safety at all times. I will continue to rely on all my support. There'll be no contact now. What he says, feels, or thinks from here, that belongs to him. I belong to me and nobody else. It feels strange and scary, but it still feels right. If anyone ended up here because this experience is also yours, ask for help. Start small, but start somewhere. You're not trapped by them, but by the fear they wield. Weaponized in tiny and big and brief and endless ways to warp your sense of self and your world until both feel completely unrecognizable, just so that you don't realize what I and so many people who shared stories here have. The cage you feel around you is in fact made of glass, and you can, carefully and safely, smash that down. The rest is just problem solving. Thank you. Well, there we go, a very powerful story to start this episode, and now I'm sure you can understand why I wanted to bring it to you. It's not really for me to give my comments on, I think. It's probably more for you guys in the comments to get involved. And if you are in this situation, use the comment section here as a safe space to really, get some advice, because I know that the audience listening and watching to this right now, you guys are like elite and you're extremely helpful. You've got a lot of experience. You're very respectful. You're great at giving advice. So if you are struggling with something like this, I think now is the time. Get in the comments down below, read through them. There'll be a lot of them because you guys are amazing at dropping phenomenal bombs of wisdom. It's pretty ridiculous, to be fair. Sometimes I read the comments and I'm like, why am I the one that's doing these and giving my thoughts? It should be you guys. But as a collective, it's very impressive a lot of the time when I read the comments. So yeah, this is why I wanted to bring this story to you guys first, so you guys can get involved as well. Tell your stories in the comments down below, give some help, and vent out anything that's going on in your life. Anyway, 2 more stories to come. Let's get into the second. I am a 21-year-old woman, and I've got a new boyfriend who is 24. His male friends tested me and I passed. Is this as weird as I think it is? Now, the first post for this one came back in November of 2015. Hi, relationship subreddit. I need some outside perspective here on a small but weird problem. I've been dating this guy, Sam, for about 3 months now. Just recently made it official, and I met his friends on Thursday. Sam's awesome, and his friends seem awesome too, or so I thought. We were all hanging out, playing games, watching Netflix, etc. on Thursday after having come back from the local bar. It was a good time and we were all having fun. Then Sam left the room, and his friends almost immediately started talking badly about him. They were ragging on his appearance, calling him a loser, etc., and it made me very uncomfortable. They tried to get me to join in, and I kept brushing them off. They persisted, so I finally told them to knock it off and informed them that I'd be telling Sam all of this. They got quiet, and then Sam came back, and they tried to go back to just hanging out. I was so annoyed that I said I was going to bed and went to Sam's room. Sam came in about half an hour later and asked me if everything was okay. I told him that his friends were talking terribly about him, and it annoyed me. I said that I know I had no right to tell him who to be friends with, but I think he should ditch them. And then he did something that totally threw me off. He grinned. I asked him what he was smiling about, and that is when he told me the following. Apparently, they do this with every girl Sam meets to test her and see if she'll talk trash about him behind his back. If she does, he dumps her. If not, hooray! Sam's in on it and says it's pretty harmless. He says I'm the first girl to have told him about what happened, which means I'm the best? I'm inclined to agree that it's harmless, but I find it weird. Am I right in thinking this is strange? Is this something normal? Do all guys do this? Just need some perspective. Thanks. Okay, I think I've got to come in on this as a guy and say, no one does this. This is not normal. At least no one I know does this. What a weird test. The test itself, which by the way does exist, is just your girlfriend or the person you're seeing meeting your friends and seeing how they are with them, because maybe they're really weird, and then that's a test in and of itself, and your friends need to be able to be friends with the person you're seeing, right? That's like the test. It's not really like a formal test, it's just your girlfriend meeting your friends. It's a pretty normal thing, and seeing how that interaction is, I don't know, seeing they're not like completely socially inept, I suppose, or weird, who knows, right? It's not really a test, as I've said. This though is like a formal test, setting something up to gauge somebody's reaction is strange, very strange. Like, you shouldn't need to do this. You should have enough trust in the person anyway to back them into doing something like this. Like, it's just weird. I would hope that the person that I was with, if my friends genuinely did this behind my back to them, would tell me. And I think I should be able to gauge if the person I'm with would do that or not. I wouldn't need to do some weird test like this to work that out. Yeah, very odd from my point of view. I mean, if I were UOP, I'd be really questioning this behavior, because it is ultimately extremely strange. What does that say about Sam and his friends outside of this? I don't know. Are there going to be more tests in future? Are you going to feel like you can't really ever trust what's going on in this friendship group? If that is the case, I wouldn't blame you. Let's see what the people of Reddit said before we jump into the update for this one. All right, someone said, your boyfriend still has a lot of growing up to do. This is high school level stuff. You need to decide if you want to date a child, or do you want to move on and find a real man? Someone else said, well, you may have passed his test, but he sure as heck failed yours. Yeah, good point. Why would you want to be with someone who's going to set you up like that? Exactly. And then finally someone said, yeah, you may have passed, but Sam and his friends failed. Setting people up in uncomfortable and made up positions is not only mean and childish, but it's also unrealistic and pointless. You don't lie to people to gain the truth. Your mileage may vary, but I'd be moving on from people who feel the need to manipulate me and put me through stress for their own benefit and amusement. Couldn't agree more. I mean, I'm trying to gauge it from Sam's perspective. You would want the person you're with in this situation to speak up and tell you what happened and what your friends were saying about you. But it's just like, do you need to run this weird simulation to find that out? Again, I think you should just be able to gauge from your own interactions with the girl that you're seeing that they would do this. You don't need it to actually play out in real life. For example, if you were bleeding out to death, would your girlfriend call the police or call an ambulance? I mean, that's just ridiculous. But you know what I mean? Like, you don't need that simulation. You don't actually need to do that or fake that. Like, imagine you fake falling down the stairs and you pour ketchup everywhere and say, Amanda, I've fallen down the stairs. Please help me, I'm dying. And then you can judge at that point, are they going to call an ambulance or not, and just laugh at you. I mean, that is actually very far-fetched from me, but is it totally tangential? I don't think it is. I actually think that has a reason, what I've just said there, even though it is ridiculous, but you know what I'm saying. Anyway, into the update that came the next day. OP says, hello again. Wow, my post blew up yesterday. Thank you everyone for the advice. sorry I didn't respond to anyone. I posted it while on my break at work, so I had no time to do so. I thoroughly appreciate all of you taking time to comment. You're all radiant unicorn moonbeams and you're awesome. Everyone pretty much unanimously said that A, Sam is a D, and B, dump the D. This confirmed my suspicions, but I figured I'd talk to Sam about it anyway, just to give him the benefit of the doubt because I'm nice like that. Well, long story short, A, Sam really and truly is a D, and B, the D has been dumped. The conversation lasted all of 5 minutes before he started getting defensive. The climax was him calling me a female dog for not being grateful that I'd passed this stupid test. At that point, I just said, yeah, it's over. I may have passed your test, but you failed mine. Thank you, one Reddit user, for that line. And I walked away. He tried to blow up my phone, but I nipped that in the bud by blocking him. So yeah, thanks everybody for helping me dodge a massive bullet bill-sized bullet. Much appreciated. You guys are all a bunch of beautiful sunlit diamonds. Wow, can I just say, being called a radiant unicorn moonbeam and a beautiful sunlit diamond within a couple of paragraphs has really boosted my self-esteem. Thank you, OP. The top comment here on this entire thing is, you don't lie to people to gain the truth. And I think that is a very, very apt comment and a good way to sum this up. There are better ways of working out what someone's like than giving them these stupid tests. Anyway, let's get into our final story of this episode. My boyfriend, a 28-year-old, faked a proposal to me, a 24-year-old woman, for his friend's prank video. I'm devastated. I'm using a throwaway post for this one. I'm sorry, but I'm shaking and still upset, and I really don't know what to do anymore. I cannot deal with my boyfriend anymore. By the way, this was posted back in 2015. Me and Mike have been dating for 6 years now. I love him with all my heart, and he knows that I really, really want to be married to him. I've always felt like he's the one. We have a similar sense of humor, we've been living together for 3 years, and everything just feels right. My birthday was last weekend, and Mike kept dropping little hints about possibly proposing, like buying me a spa day to give me extra pampering, insisting I get my nails done. I told him before that when he proposed, I'd like my nails done because my pet peeve is really bad nails with a really fancy ring. Shallow, I know, but it is what it is. Well, you are not the only girl that thinks that. And telling me that the night was going to be huge, and he had an amazing gift for me. We went to dinner with our friends that night, and in front of everyone, he made a big show of getting down on one knee and saying the words I've always wanted to hear. How much he loved me, how much he truly wanted to spend his life with me. Then he asked me to marry him. Of course, I started crying and said yes, and that's when he jumped up and screamed, "Just kidding!" His friend had been filming the entire freaking thing as some sort of twisted prank video for his freaking YouTube channel. Oh my gosh. Remember guys, this was posted in 2015, probably the height of terrible YouTube prank videos. I ran out of there. I couldn't handle it and I couldn't stop crying. I feel so disrespected, and the worst part is he doesn't even understand why. He says that he gave me a nice party and brought me a great gift, so I should lighten up over one little prank. I told him that if he published that frickin' video, I'd punch him in his throat, and in no certain terms, told him that I felt disrespected, humiliated, and devastated by what he'd done to me. He told me to stop being a drama queen. We've barely spoken to each other since that day, and a couple of hours ago he sent me a text asking me if he should stay somewhere else that weekend. I don't know what to do. I'm honestly thinking about leaving because he seriously thinks what he did to me is funny instead of insulting and disrespectful. I can't think straight. Yeah, that's the thing with these things. Sometimes it's not the actual act itself, it's the reaction afterwards and somebody not realizing that what they did is so wrong that's actually the really concerning thing, because people can make mistakes in the moment. I mean, this is a bad one, but they can. But if they don't understand why it's a mistake afterwards, then that says something more about their character. Anyway, let's jump into the comments. Somebody said, you should dump him. He doesn't even comprehend what he did. He doesn't give a trash about your feelings, and he intentionally humiliated you in public for a laugh. I don't see how you could possibly forgive him or ever trust him after this. OP replied, yeah, I don't think I'll ever be able to trust him after this. I'm too hurt and so angry. I just can't. Someone else said, you sure he's 28? Because he's a moron for a 28-year-old. Someone else said, 6 years is a long time, long enough for this guy to have more respect for you. That respect doesn't seem to be there based on what he did. How long will you wait for a proposal? Would you be happy without? For me though, I'm admittedly vindictive. I'd be gone. OP said, well, I don't even think I want a proposal anymore. Someone else said, text them back, yeah, you need to find another place to stay permanently. Let him sweat, wondering if that's a prank for a while. That text message he sent you is a passive-aggressive way to force you to apologize for overreacting. It's time to teach this little idiot that there are major consequences for being a total D. Opie replied saying, I texted him to tell him he isn't welcome at the house. He responded with, seriously? And I haven't answered. Alright, before we get into the update, which came 4 days later, Opie added a little bit more information about her boyfriend, saying, he's always been bullish and headstrong, and he doesn't know when he's gone too far. He never says he's sorry, even when he's wrong. Honestly, we don't fight often, but when we do, it's almost never resolved because we just don't talk about it anymore. I always thought that when you love someone, you accept their bad parts and their flaws too, but when it's so mean and nasty like this, I can't. Yeah, I think there are levels. When someone's bad parts are really not that bad, they just slightly annoy you, that's completely fine. When their bad parts are like really disrespecting you, that's a step too far. Anyway, let's get into the update. To start off, I just want to say thank you. I've gotten so many messages and comments offering me not only support but advice, offering a shoulder to cry on, offering me a person to vent to, you name it. It's seriously awesome. Thank you guys. Sincerely. I never did return Mike's seriously text, and he didn't come home, which made me think that he stayed over at his friend's house. After sleeping on it for a couple of days, I'd already kind of come to the decision to break up. I just couldn't get over what he did, and I didn't think he could get over what he did and how he didn't care about how what he did to me affected me. So my mind was made up. His name is on the lease, so I called my mum and dad to explain the situation and told them I wanted to come home, which of course they said yes to right away. My parents are 150% furious at him. That is a high percentage. I texted his best friend to tell Mike that I was moving out, and lo and behold, he tells me that Mike hasn't been staying with him. I asked him if he knew where Mike was, and he says he's not sure, but he'll find out and get back to me. I reached out to a couple of our mutual friends, and one that's more of my friend than his did some asking around and found out the truth. It turns out that Mike has been shacking up with the girl he's been cheating on me with for months. There's so many things I could say about this, but sometimes I think silence speaks louder than words. He's been texting and calling me like crazy since he heard I found out. I'm ignoring him. I grabbed my essentials and left back to my parents' house. They're over there today with the movers to remove all my stuff. My dad's a lawyer and he promised to put the screws to Mike about uploading the video. I hope that and any decency he has left in his black heart will stop him from putting the video online. I'm so numb right now. I feel like the world's biggest idiot for loving him and trusting him for 6 years. I probably am an idiot, but I think I'm going to be okay. Thanks again, everyone. Also, for everyone that asked, most of the girls we're mutual friends with are now treating him like trash for what he did. The waitress that night was also horrified and ripped into him and his friend after I left about how effed up what they did was. I'll take the small victories. Alright, a few final comments before I give my thoughts. Someone said, good for you, OP. Cut contact forever and keep moving forward. The ultimate prank on him is that he has to deal with being a terrible person. OP replied saying, well, I hope he realizes what this prank cost him one day. That and the cheating, I really can't. I'll always wonder why he couldn't be a man and come to me if he was unhappy with our relationship, but I don't care enough anymore to talk to him and ask. Now this is a really interesting question to end this story on. Somebody said, I'm curious, OP. You dated this guy for 6 years. In hindsight, are there any red flags that show how terrible of a person he truly seems to be? And I like this question because it's something I think about a lot when I read these stories. Surely, if someone is able to do something as ridiculous as this and then not even consider your reaction to it or realize how wrong they are, surely there were signs earlier on in the relationship that this was the sort of person they are. But OP has replied saying, the more I think about it, actually, yes. In hindsight, he was a very selfish person. Every nice thing he did for me was a benefit to himself. I don't remember him ever being selfless, especially in the last year of us dating. even though he had no problems criticizing me and my appearance if I didn't take advantage of presents he offered me. Stuff like getting my hair done and stuff like that. I, a 22-year-old woman, woke up in the middle of the night to find my best friend, also a 22-year-old woman, sleeping with my boyfriend, who was 24, in the living room. This was originally posted on April the 24th, 2019. I don't even know where to begin. My head is such a mess right now. So, my boyfriend John and I have been dating for 3 years, and at the beginning it was the most romantic love story. I met him when I was 18 and started dating him when I was 19, and the more I dated him, the more I saw a future with him. He would always put time and effort into me, take care of me, and go the extra mile to put a smile on my face. But things have changed since then, to say the least, after about 1.5 years of dating. It started with little things, like him not wanting to kiss me as much, or finding excuses to not hang out. We went from seeing each other every day to only hanging out maybe once or twice a week for 2 hours. I know he's got his own life, and I'm not trying to control him, but I wish he would make me feel a little more special, and maybe make an extra effort to see me. I should probably also mention that I suffer from depression and low self-esteem, and it's probably really hard on John when I'm in a bad state. I try not to, but sometimes I just can't help feeling so alone and in the dark. So, anyways, we were celebrating my best friend's, well, ex-best friend's now, birthday at my house last night with a bunch of friends, maybe about 20, and there was a fair bit of drinking. The reason she couldn't have a party at her house was because she shares her place with roommates, which was fine because I had no problem throwing her party at mine as long as she helped clean the house up in the morning. The night went alright, but I did notice that John and Sarah, my best friend, were getting a little too close, like him grabbing her from behind and spinning her around. But I just brushed it off because I never noticed anything before and we're all best friends. So after around midnight, everyone has left, and John, Sarah and I are just chilling in the lounge, laughing about our night together. And when I was ready for bed, I set up a mattress in the lounge for Sarah, and John told me he'd be in our bed soon. So I went to bed and I crashed alone. Maybe after a few hours, I woke up in the middle of the night, desperately needing to pee. Now, I don't have a bathroom connected to my room, it's down the hall. So I slowly get up and realise that John isn't in our bed. So I went to walk down the hall when I start to hear like moaning noises, and I'm like, what the F? And I peek my head down the hall to see John and Sarah having sex. I know, I should have confronted them right there and then, but I couldn't. I just sneaked back into bed and cried silently. I didn't even have a chance to pee. So, now it's morning. John has snuck back into our bed and is acting like nothing's happened. I've lost a lifelong best friend and a boyfriend I put 3 years into. I don't even know how to confront them. I'm not even sure if I can confirm what I'd seen because we were all drinking. It's driving my insanity crazy. But the real kicker is that John and I haven't slept together in months, but he can sleep with her? I just feel so low. How can I confront them and even begin to process this? I don't want to lose John. We have our ups and downs, but he's everything to me. If anyone has ever been in this situation and has any advice, feel free to let me know. Just don't be too brutal. I think I already know what I have to do. Right, let's jump straight into the comments here and see if Redditors gave any good advice or not. Somebody said, "Unbelievable. I'm so sorry this happened to you. I would first sit down with John and just be straight up about what you saw and heard. There's no way he can lie or deny it without looking like an idiot. I would deal with Sarah afterwards. Dang snake. Honestly though, if it were me in this situation, I would cut them both off right after confronting them. No questions asked. What your friend and boyfriend did was beyond betrayal. There are no excuses, and I wouldn't even bother trying to hear them out." Yeah, very good advice. OP replied, "I'm thinking about doing this once Sarah leaves, which should hopefully be soon. I'm just hiding away in my room. I feel so pathetic." Wait, what? Is this like happening live? Oh my goodness me. So this is happening the morning after. OP's writing this on Reddit. Oh my goodness. This is like, we're there, in the room. Goodness me. Somebody else said, "Well, all I can say is leave. He cheated on you and broke your trust. You deserve better. Find someone who respects you." Now, OP replied to this saying, "One thing I'm scared about leaving is that he has private photos of me and I'm afraid he will share them if I leave him in such an abrupt way. He can be that kind of petty person. I think I know his password. I'm going to try and delete the photos before I confront him with the excuse that I need to check my email or something like that. I'm just hoping they aren't backed up. But if something happens, I will definitely go to the police. Yeah, I mean, that is tough that would be a reason to not leave somebody. But, you know, if those photos do go anywhere, that is a very serious crime. But I do understand your concern. Finally, somebody said, you need to call both of them out and get out of the relationship ASAP. If he's willing to cheat on you in your house with what was supposed to be your best friend, he'll never change. And it also sounds like he's been pushing you away already anyways. But like I said, if he's willing to F someone else when you're in the next room, that's unacceptable. I would have been beating my friend's face in. So I do give you props for not stabbing either of them. Not just one person broke your trust, but two of them together. Anyway, get out now. This means most likely he's been effing other people too. Probably, at least. Sorry for the double betrayal. And then OP says, thank you for the encouragement. I wish I had your strength. I'm going to confront him when Sarah leaves. I just can't believe that OP is in her room. Her boyfriend is now back in bed next to her. She's on her phone, typing this on Reddit and replying to people who are giving good advice like this with her boyfriend next to her, who's done the unspeakable, the unthinkable. And Sarah is still there, probably asleep in the lounge, in the other room, on that same blow-up mattress that she had sex with your boyfriend on hours ago. Crazy. Okay, now the next day, on April 25th, OP gave us a little edit/update. She said, I used the excuse that I had to text my mum and ask what day we're hanging out. I don't have credit and John knows that, so he didn't suspect anything when I asked for his phone. I went through his phone and the evidence was pretty damning. They've been sleeping together for a while. I took screenshots of their conversations and sent it to my phone in case he tried to deny it. After all that, I confronted him when Sarah left. It was so hard to even get the words out. And you know what? He denied it. He told me that he loves me more than anything and would never do that, and that I should know that and to stop accusing him of such silly nonsense. That's when I told him I've seen all of his and Sarah's messages. At first, he still kept denying it, saying someone's hacked his accounts and he doesn't know what I'm talking about. But eventually he broke down, crying, saying he loves me and doesn't want to lose me, but couldn't feel the spark anymore. And it was the biggest mistake of his life. He wants to make this work and push past this. Well, maybe he should have tried instead of sleeping with my best friend. So I told him to leave, and of course he doesn't know where his car keys are, and asks if it's okay to stay for a few hours when his best friend Mark gets off work so he can pick him up. It was so difficult to say no, but I did. I just wanted to be alone. I don't even know who he is anymore. He ended up finding his car keys and he's been calling and messaging me ever since. As for Sarah, I got a message from her saying this. I'm assuming that John gave her the heads up. I can't even explain how sorry I am. I never wanted to hurt you, and I don't know how this happened, but something grew between John and I can't deny that what we have is so intensely strong and real. I hope we can work for this, and I hope you can someday come to become okay with me and John being a couple. I wish you the best of luck, and when you're ready, please message me. Lots of love. So I don't know what to believe. John is telling me he wants to work through this, while Sarah is saying they're a couple. I'm now going to be ending it with John, and my mum is going to come meet with me and stay for a few days to make sure I'm okay. Thank you for all the advice, Reddit. And then a sad face to end. All right, let's jump into the comments on this one. Somebody said, quoting, I never wanted to hurt you, and I don't know how this happened, but something grew between John and I can't deny that what we have is so intensely strong and real. Yeah, so real. Oh my God, they say. Until one of them loses that spark and cheats on the other. This is how people act when they have no self-control or willpower. If you're losing the spark, you don't go and F other people. You try to work on your relationship, or you end it if you're not willing. OP said, yeah, exactly. He should have ended it with me months ago when he first felt something, for the snake at least. I no longer have any respect for either of them, and nor should you. Okay, now let's get into the second edit/update. OP says, first of all, I would like to thank everyone for your words of advice and support. I really appreciate all of that in a time like this. Some of you guys suggested that I send the messages that John sent me to Sarah. Me and my mum talked about it and how I might come off as spiteful and jealous, but I thought screw it. I don't owe you guys a time of day or respect, so I sent them to her. At first, she didn't respond and ignored it, but then replied, asking to meet up and discuss this. She is now playing the victim, saying she had no idea that John still wanted to pursue me and that we've both been played. God, that is so poor. So while you are having sex with your best friend's boyfriend and you know what you're doing, you say, oh, he's playing us both. No, you're an idiot. Anyway, OP says, I have no idea if Sarah messaged John or what came of those messages. I honestly want nothing to do with them anymore. My plan is to pack up all of John's stuff and leave it out the front outside, then message him, come and collect it while I'm at work. He's got 3 days to get it until I donate it to a charity. I also then blocked his number and every social media account so he can no longer contact me. I've also removed his name from any shared responsibilities or accounts we have together, and any mail of his that is sent to my address will be returned to sender because I'm not putting up with any more of his trash. As for Sarah, I have no intention of keeping that snake as a best friend, but unfortunately we travel in the same friend group, so I'll just have to avoid any future gatherings that she is participating in. Luckily, I have friends that love me and will help me move through this. Thank you again for your support. And one final edit here, he picked up his stuff, loaded it into his car, and then showed up to my door. I told him to pick it up during my work hours, but of course he didn't have the decency to give me frickin' that. I'm so angry. Mum said that he tried to walk through the door and she told him to get lost and slammed the door in his face. I could hear him calling my name and it made me cry a little harder, but I just wish I could have had the satisfaction of watching him have the door slammed in his face. Just, what a piece of trash. And one final comment from OP before I give my thoughts on this. I spoke about it to 2 of my friends and I'm assuming that everyone knows by now. I just don't have the mindset to really talk about it with them at the moment, but they understand. But as much as I hate her, I don't want the group to feel like they have to choose. Well, in my opinion, they absolutely should choose, and they should make the right decision, because if that was me, if I were you, OP, I would never want to see this ex-best friend ever again, and I would make it abundantly clear to all my friends that I'm not going to be in the same room as them ever. So if they want to see me, she can't be there, and then they should make the right decision because she did something horrible and you were just living your life. So I wouldn't want to be friends with someone that did stuff like this anyway. It doesn't even matter if I had to choose between one friend or the other. But yeah, I think they should choose, and you should make a decision. If you want to choose her, that's cool. I don't want to be friends with you anyway. I mean, it does just bring me back to the main point that I seem to always make when reading stories like this, which is I just don't understand why you don't break up with somebody if you don't like them or if you're tempted to cheat on someone else. Like, if you are tempted to cheat on somebody while you're still in a relationship with your girlfriend or your partner, that is actually fine. At that point, you should then say to yourself, okay, I'm having these sort of thoughts. Now I need to break up before I actually do something like that or emotionally cheat. Like, if you're thinking about other people, at that point, you should probably move on. Don't wait till you actually do it. Okay, that's probably come across as really bad. Like, thinking about cheating on somebody is not what I mean. I mean like thinking about being with somebody else or thinking about not being with your partner, or if the idea of like being with somebody else excites you, then I think at that point you probably need to have a look at yourself and think, am I willing to work on this, or am I done here? Not can I get away with actually physically being with somebody else and then still having them sort of, as in my partner, sort of like be the main person, but then I'm actually having fun on the other side. Yeah, I just don't get how you get to that point. I'm probably going to get killed in the comments for saying that because I haven't worded that very well. But I think people would be lying to themselves if they said they'd never thought of being with somebody else while at the end of a relationship with your ex. It's just like, you need to break up before you do that. Maybe. Kill me in the comments, I don't care. Actually, to be fair, I don't think I've ever actually thought that myself, so maybe I'm just chatting absolute wash, as I usually do. For me, actually, that didn't happen. I just knew it wasn't the right relationship for me, my last relationship. There we go. A lot of waffle, but that's why you subscribe. I mean, is that true? I do kind of remember still being in a relationship and thinking, that girl over there is very fit. And I was questioning whether I wanted to be in a relationship at the time or not. And at that moment, I thought to myself, okay, probably should end the relationship then, or at least really strongly consider it. Does that make me a bad person? Does that make me a really good guy? Just an honest guy. I was caught using AI to write my wedding vows, and my partner walked out. What do I do? I, a 35-year-old man, recently had a wedding with my partner, a 34-year-old woman. We've had a stable and happy relationship so far, and I love her more than anything in the world. The problem arose when it came to writing vows. Don't get me wrong, I love many things about my partner, but I just couldn't figure out how to put them into tangible vows. I decided to use ChatGPT so I can have something well written and expressive to share at the ceremony. The thing about my partner is that she's very confrontational and no nonsense. If something annoys her, she immediately addresses it with no room for backing out. I also know that she's expressed disdain for AI in the past, but I didn't realize how far the hatred could go. I don't know how, but she immediately recognized that the vows were AI. After I'd finished, she had this angry look and whispered to me, "Did you use freaking AI to write that?" I was quiet because I couldn't believe she'd noticed, and she was choosing to address it while we were on full display for everyone. She then said that I either speak from the heart or she walks out. I literally couldn't get any words out, and she kept her promise and walked back down the aisle, much to all of our friends and family's confusion. She's been ghosting me these past few days, which is atypical for her and has honestly given me panic attacks. Most people agree that calling off a marriage because of AI vows was an overreaction, and that maybe it was a sign that our relationship would have issues, but a few female friends have said that they would have done the same. I'm hurt, and honestly just needed it to help make the day more special. Is it worth fixing? Honestly, I think this is one of the worst things you can possibly do at a wedding. In the moment where you are trying to convey how much the person you're literally just about to marry means to you, how much you care about them, how much you're looking forward to spending the rest of your life with them, you've used AI to help you write that out. I think that is just so wrong. And I get it. Look, maybe you're not the best with words. That's fine, but at least they'd be your words and not artificial intelligences. And your partner is marrying you for you and your words, not ChatGPT's. It's just insane. I honestly would do the same as your partner. If I could work out, or if I found out that the person I'm about to marry has written their vows using AI, I'm out of there. I'm sorry, that is just that's so poor. I don't know if it gets much worse than that. I get it from your perspective. You wanted to convey how you truly felt, but I don't think that is the way of doing it at all. That's just so bad. Okay, now before we get into the comments, and as you can imagine, they were pretty scathing. First of all, I want to read out this quick edit that OP left on this post just 10 hours after posting it. He said, "Okay, I screwed up. I didn't check this post for a while because I wanted more points of view instead of just getting torn to shreds, but I understand why the situation is worse than I thought it was. I've been trying to contact my partner's family to see if I can talk to her again, but apparently she's been staying out of state with her sister. I'm going to tell her when she gets back what I heard here and that I understand. I'm also going to write new vows without AI and bring her favourite flowers and snacks. I still want her to know that I love her and know her. I will post an update when I can. Thank you all, even if some feedback could have been a tad more nicely put." Yeah, as you can probably imagine, and as we're going to get into right now, the comments weren't best pleased. Someone said, "Did you write this with AI too, bud? Come on, man, you should have been talking from the heart." OP then replied, and this was heavily downvoted by Redditors, "No, I could write this just fine. For the vows, it was different because I wanted them to be perfect, and there was just a lot I wanted to say that I ended up not being able to say anything. No, that's just not an excuse. Perfect vows are not written by AI, they're written by you. And what makes them perfect is surely the fact that they're written by you, even if they are objectively imperfect, right? They've got to come from you. That's the whole point. You're marrying another person. ChatGPT isn't third wheeling here. Somebody else said, I don't know why so many men, sometimes women too, but it's usually men, have this belief in the back of their heads that they have this overruling right with their female partner, where they can just ignore or dismiss whatever she wants or prefers as long as he thinks he's got a better idea. Like, she's a child and he's the parent who knows better. And now we have you, quote, she told me explicitly multiple times that she hates AI, but I felt like it wasn't a big deal and that I needed it, so I used it anyway for my wedding vows. How can I show her that she's overreacting, quote. I suppose that is kind of what OP has said. The comment continues, you don't do that because she's not overreacting. You disrespected her majorly. You're not the victim here. You knew dang well what her reaction to you using AI would be, and you did it anyway because, again, you thought you knew better and that she wouldn't find out anyway. Again, like she's a stupid child and you're her parent replacing her dead goldfish before she gets home from school. She deserves better than to marry a man who thinks of her that way. That is a very harsh comment. I'm not personally sure if I would fully agree with that. I feel like, I don't know. I'm sort of like in two minds with that because on the one hand, yeah, OP's fiance has said in the past how much she doesn't like AI and he knows that and has still done what he's done. But I don't necessarily agree with the whole like parent and child thing and that this is like a wider sort of sexist debate. I think he just thought that he could get away with using AI. Simple as that. Still a terrible decision, but yeah, I wouldn't make it out to be more than it is. Anyway, OP replied saying, I didn't realize she'd be able to tell right away. When I spoke of her disdain for AI, people are making it seem like it was a deal breaker that I simply ignored, which isn't the case. I didn't understand that it meant that much to her, and I definitely won't be making the same careless mistake again. Somebody else said, the thing is, this is all a slippery slope. Once you get AI to do something as important as writing your wedding vows, you will even more easily be getting AI to reply to your text messages and creating apology messages when you get into arguments which you didn't even write. At which point, she might as well be in a relationship with ChatGPT instead of you. That is a great point. OP replied, this is my first time using it to write text, and this whole situation scared me off it for good. If I can fix things, hopefully I won't fall into a slippery slope. Somebody else asked, didn't you have an efficient? Ours offered to help us both individually with vows if we wanted, i.e. even just bullet points of what we wanted to say, and they would help with wordsmithing. AI isn't even well written or genuine. This was a major, expensive, public and preventable incident you caused, and you are not looking for ways to own it and fix it, but for reasons why she is overreacting. OP said, well, I actually thought that getting help from the efficient would be less authentic. I guess I took an even worse route without realizing. Well, that makes just no sense to me, sorry. It really doesn't make any sense. By the way, I feel like using ChatGPT to sort of generally construct an idea is okay. Like, if OP had said to ChatGPT, I've got these key things that I want to talk about, and I can't quite work out a structure as to how to get all these things into the vows in a very succinct way. Can you help me with that? I feel like that would have been okay. But the fact that your fiance has noticed like pretty quickly that you've used ChatGPT tells me that you have just read what it's written to you and you've just said, well, can you just write my vows for me? These are the key points. So how would using an efficient be less authentic than that? I mean, that is as fake as you can possibly get. Anyway, somebody else said, I am skeptical that most people, as you said, told you that this is an overreaction. Let's see the vows. Wow, I would love to see the vows because then we could really judge. Somebody else replied to this jokingly, saying, as if these were the vows, in vain I have struggled. It will not do. My feelings will not be repressed. You must allow me to tell you how ardently I admire and love you. In declaring myself thus, I'm fully aware that I will be going expressly against the wishes of my family, my friends, and I hardly need add my own better judgment. Sorry, I was really enjoying the effects there. Oh, somebody else gave another comment.
I, user, have strong feelings for you. Object of affection, such as love, admiration, and other feelings that express how I feel about you.
Also, have I mentioned that the Pro subscription is on offer right now, and ChatGPT 5 is better in most ways. Just remember to delete the last part.
Anyway, all that silliness aside, let's get into the update post. This came 2 months later. I honestly wasn't planning to do an update after all because of how humiliating this entire situation has been. I didn't want to give more of a reason for people to rip me apart, but now that my story is posted on a popular YouTube channel, and it's going to be on mine as well, there probably won't be much of an escape route for me. There's no doubt people we know will find it now, so I wanted to give the short update everyone has been itching to get. Apparently it was Smosh that reacted to this post. I did what I said previously, and I told her about the Reddit post, and how the replies gave me her perspective, and that I was sorry. She ended up getting even more angry with me about posting our business, even though our names weren't mentioned, and that she couldn't believe I needed online strangers to tell me why I was wrong. That is a great point from her. I also don't know why you needed this post to realize how wrong you were. Also, apparently my mum was texting her about paying back all the wasted wedding money, and she used that against me too, which I don't think is fair. I have no control over what my family does. Snacks and Flowers didn't do much. She refuses to give me another chance, even after offering to go to couples counselling. So yeah, the wedding is never happening again. It's over. This has been the most horrendous time in my life. I've thought about giving up altogether. Meanwhile, she's posting about brunch with friends on her social media. It makes me wonder how she could move on that fast while I'm a wreck. People have accused me of not caring about her enough to write my own vows, yet the difference in our reactions to splitting up says the reverse. I hope you're all happy. Feel free to rub salt in the wound. I'm not coming back to this account. Wow. Alright, let's get straight to the comments. Somebody said, and this was pretty much the top comment, well, the difference in your reactions just says that this was the final straw for her, while you were, and still are, freaking clueless. So accurate. You can tell by the fact that she just doesn't really seem to care, that she hasn't, in truth, really cared for a while. Or at least she was looking for something like this. Like, this is not like a singular action that has just caused her to be done with the wedding. She's been thinking about it probably for some time, and that was the last straw. Someone else replied to this saying, he really doesn't get it, lol. He decided that it wasn't worth his time or effort to write his own vows on his wedding day, so offloaded the subpar task to an AI assistant, and is now mad that his fiancée thinks he's a moron. He can say that he wanted them to be perfect all he wants, but the reality is he couldn't be bothered to make them perfect on his own, yet he wrote both the post and the update just fine. Someone else said, by the way OP, this line absolutely took me out. Snacks and Flowers didn't do much. Did you actually think it would? You're legitimately telling us that you, at 35 years old, actually thought you could solve the fact that she publicly left you at the altar in the middle of the ceremony by bringing her snacks and flowers. Honestly, that tells me everything I need to know. I bet you didn't even bring her preferred snacks and brought your own favourites. I had more to say, but it's clear you don't have the reading comprehension required for it to matter, so why bother? I can see why you needed AI's help. Oh, brutal comment, but very fair. Someone else said, yeah, he probably asked AI what snacks and flowers women prefer most. And finally, someone said, dude, paying back all the wasted wedding money and I have no control over what my family does. Those two quotes give me all the information to say this. She dodged a bullet. Someone else said, yeah, this made me think the ex-fiancé was also dealing with a nasty in-law and a fiancé not willing to stand up for her. I literally wrote the same thing about her dodging the bullet because of this on another site where this was posted. So there we go. That is the end of this story. Ridiculous story, really, because it just came from a man who wasn't willing to write his own wedding vows. That's just insane. Who's not willing to do that? Also, I feel like even if you're a terrible writer, just writing a bullet point list of reasons why you want to marry this woman or reasons why she's so amazing. You know, you don't have to make it like publishable, phenomenally well written, whatever. Just even writing a list of things and just reading that out, unpolished, would have been so much better. Probably quite charming as well, to be fair, than getting ChatGPT to do it. It's just so dumb. Look, I'm not married, so I don't know how writing your own vows works, but I also feel like sometimes don't you sort of write your vows together, and then you can sort of get a gauge for how long they're going to be, the pacing, the content in a way as well, like the style. I don't know, it feels like it would be quite a fun thing to do. Or if you want to write them separately, whatever, just make sure that one of you is using ChatGPT, someone else is using Claude, someone else is using whatever the new AI agent is. It's just like, it's insane. Why would you not just go to your partner and say, listen, I'm struggling making these vows, I'm going to be honest. You probably know me quite well at this point because we're getting married. I don't know. Great communication from everyone involved, especially ChatGPT.
My parents falsely accused my brother of being a creep, and it's really affecting him. This was originally posted on the 31st of August 2020. My brother is 15, my sister is 17, and I'm a 23-year-old woman. This is really stupid, and it shouldn't have happened, but it did. Now I just want advice on how to make it better. Also, this is the story my brother told me as I wasn't there. So, he was in his room, playing on his phone, minding his own business. He got up to take out the trash. He came back to lay down in his bed. As he was laying down, he noticed their dog walking out of his room. He ignored it. Later on, his sister noticed that some of her clothes were missing. She went looking for them and found them in my brother's room. The problem was, they were wet and slimy. She immediately told our parents, and they thought the worst. My dad, my mum, and my brother argued about it. Rude things were said. Apparently, mum said, "I knew you were weird, but not this weird." My dad said, "I raised a predator." In the end, my parents asked me to pick him up and let him stay with me for a couple of days. When I picked him up, he didn't say anything and just sat there in silence. He spent the entire time in the room he was staying in. He only came out for dinner. He skipped breakfast and lunch. His eyes were always red when he came out, so I assume he'd been crying. I've never seen him cry. Most of the time, when he's upset, he just has a stone face, so what they said must have got to him. Finally, at the end of the week, my parents called me and said they wanted to talk to him, so they came over. Before they came over, I tried to talk to him, but he ignored me. When our parents came, they apologized to him. Over the week, they noticed more of my sister's clothes in his room, until one day my dad caught the dog with my sister's clothes. My brother just said, "Okay," and went home. I tried to ask my parents if he could stay longer, but they said that wouldn't be necessary. Later on, I got a call asking me what did he do over at my house because he's just been in his room all day at theirs. So, is there anything I can do to help him feel better? Advice would be greatly appreciated. Okay, so there we go. That is it for the original post. Let's jump into some comments before we get into my overall thoughts and, of course, some updates. My immediate thoughts are, wow, what horrible, horrible parents. Let's see what other people online are saying. Somebody said, "Poor fellow. Your parents seriously attacked this kid, and to think they can just say, 'I'm sorry' and everything be fine is mind-boggling. They destroyed any trust he had in them, and this will not be an easy fix. It appears they had their mind set before even accusing him, thanks to your other sister. Yeah, he probably doesn't have much use for her either right now. Your brother needs space and time to heal. Being at home and being made to interact with this right now is punishment, even though they're his parents and sister. If I were you, I'd tell my parents what they did was inexcusable. I'd talk to him one-on-one and see if he wanted to stay with you for a few weeks. He's 15. Being accused of creeping on his sister would really put a dent in his self-esteem and self-worth. He needs time to heal. I'd also tell him that you're there for him no matter what. He'll eventually seek affirmation that he's not the weirdo he was labelled. Be there for him. I mean, seriously, imagine your mum saying to you, "I knew you were weird, but not this weird." What the heck? You can't come back from that. Even though she now knows it wasn't you, she still outright called you really weird. It's insane. As for your parents, the commenter continues, good grief. They need counselling, and your sister probably does too. They made their beds by striking him down so harshly. Now they'll have to deal with it a while. It's tough being a 15-year-old kid without these accusations. He really got put behind the 8 ball with this situation. I hope for the best for him. OP replied to this saying, yeah, you know what? I actually did tell my parents that it was effed up, but they don't see it though. They tried to pass it off as they were just upset in the moment, but I wasn't buying it. And sadly, he's ignoring my calls and texts. I'm thinking about just driving to see him though. And if he wants, he could stay with me for a while. I'm with him. I don't really know why they went all in on him. There has to be something larger happening if they can say all those things and not care how he feels. I don't know, but they do need some help too. Now, somebody else said, and I can't help but agree with this really. Look, I hope I'm wrong, but your brother sounds like he needs to be on unalive watch. I mean, like, when your whole family are accusing you of something like this and you're 15 and it's so shocking, I agree. Like, he needs to be looked after, very, very closely monitored for sure. This is like a horrible thing that's happened to him. OP said, do you know of any sign that we should watch out for besides him just sitting in his room? Because if this is a real possibility, I'll drive to their house tomorrow. Somebody else said, I'm not trying to be a D, but there might not be a tomorrow. You need to get him out of there ASAP. Yeah, I agree. Like, if he's just not doing anything now at all, barely eating, not leaving his room, and he's back in his family's house, not in the relative safety of yours, this is extremely concerning. OP replied saying, okay, I'm going to stop responding for a little bit. I'm going to drive over there right now and convince them to let him spend the week with me. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little scared right now, but I'll try my best. Somebody else said, your brother sounds like he's exhibiting behavior indicating he's at risk for unaliving himself, especially since he probably doesn't feel like he has anyone he can trust anymore. OP said, I'm honestly scared for him. I would have slept, but I'm staying up tonight to make sure he is good. Now, OP has added a little update as well at the end here saying, good news. He came to stay with me until Sunday. I had to lie a little to our parents to get him to come. I told them he should get out of the house because he spends most of his day sitting in one spot with online school. They didn't believe me at first, but I said it would be a chance to get him out of his room. They finally agreed. He was about to go to sleep, so I came just in time. I think the plan right now is to just spend time with him this week. I'm broke, so it's going to be mostly home stuff. I tried to talk to him on the car ride. I asked him if he's okay. He said he's fine, and we had a little conversation about his school. So at least he's talking now. He's in the spare room, so everything is okay right now. All right, next day now, and someone finally asked, how is your brother doing today? OP said he's doing better and we're talking more, but he's still pretty quiet and spends time in the room. I'm going to give a final update at the end of the week. You know what? Let's just get straight into that update. This was posted on September the 7th, same year, of course. So I've been asked to update the situation. Many of you guys asked that I let my brother live with me, but I had to take him back to our parents' house this morning. The last update I gave was when my brother was allowed to spend the week at my house. That was last Sunday. We spent the first day, Monday, at my house, just talking. He spent most of the time in his room. At first, he wasn't responding back. It was going nowhere quickly. So I ended the conversation by telling him our parents were wrong and that he's not weird. I didn't say it exactly like this, but I hope you get the point. He just had a stone face and we stopped talking. Tuesday, he still didn't really come out of the room. I offered to go and get McDonald's and he came out of the room to eat at the table. We just talked about random different things. He wasn't really interested in the conversation until we started talking about my Xbox. We eventually started talking about Madden. He started talking about how good he is at the game. We finished eating and he went back to his room. Wednesday, I bought Madden. I don't play sports games. I play games like Cuphead or cartoon animation games. I asked him if he wanted to play though, and he agreed. I know this is serious, but Madden absolutely sucks. The game started cheating as soon as we started. The first thing my player did was fumble the ball. He was killing me at it. He actually laughed a couple of times and seemed to be enjoying himself. We spent a good portion of the day just playing. Thursday was pretty much the same as Wednesday, but he was talking more. I was going to go to the movies, but COVID is still a thing. We eventually just settled to watching Netflix. He spent half the day in his room, but he's coming out more. Friday, I decided to try to talk to him about the situation again. I pretty much told him I would talk to our parents to get them to understand why he was hurt by it. I also took the advice of seeing if he wanted to talk to a professional. He asked me not to ask him about it. He said it would just be better if nobody brought it up again. I was a little shocked, but there's not much I could do. We then decided to go to a walking trail. At first, he didn't want to, but I convinced him to come. We just spent more time talking. This also made me realise that I should talk to my siblings more often. He seemed happier. Saturday or yesterday was pretty much us just talking again. We decided, instead of Madden, to just play random games I had. I don't have a lot, but I think he had a good time. When it was dinner time, he got kinda quiet again. I asked him what was wrong. He said he wasn't ready to go back home yet. I didn't know what to say. I asked him if he wanted me to talk to our parents to see what we could do. He just said no again. I pretty much told him he could come to my house anytime he wanted to. That leads us to today. He is back at his house. I was going to talk to our parents, but I assumed he had a reason for not wanting me to talk to them. I know you guys said something about getting him a therapist, but he said no to the idea. I did call my sister to see how she is doing. She said she tried to apologise to my brother, but he ignored her. I don't know what's happening with that, but one thing at a time. And that is pretty much how the week went. Overall, he seemed much happier than he was last week. I texted him and he wants to come back over sometime next week. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I have no idea what the F I'm doing. I'm only 23, still trying to get my life together. I'm a firefighter, so I'm just glad that we get a lot of vacation time, or else I'd have to work. I know people are thinking if you're a firefighter, you should know what to do, and why did you ask what the signs of depression are, etc. I was never trained on how to deal with somebody actively showing these signs of depression. I was trained to help somebody who's in the process of trying to unalive themselves, and that training wasn't that good. It was basically try to talk them down and do whatever you can to get them to a hospital. I've yet to use this training. This is why I was panicking when everything was happening. People were telling me he could unalive himself. I know I should have kept a cool head, but it just felt different because it was family. They tell you not to panic, but I'm only human. I've been a firefighter for about 2 years now. Anyway, that's just something else I wanted to say. I'm going to try to be there for both my brother and sister, but I made mistakes too. Somebody brought up the point of when I found out what happened, what was my reaction? I'm ashamed to admit, but I didn't really have one. I thought he was going to get over it and everything would be alright. I only started caring when I realised that he wasn't acting like his normal self. That's when I realised the impact of what they said and how effed up this all really is. So, to the person who brought up this point, thank you. This showed me that no matter how great my actions are looking in front of random strangers, the truth is that I have a similar mindset to my parents. I don't think he's weird, but I guess my time spent around them made me desensitized to the things they say. I don't know. I'm going to work to change that because it's not right. So to everybody, thank you for the advice you've given. I see the mistake I've made and I'm 100% behind changing myself and being behind my brother. Wow, OP being pretty harsh on herself there, in my opinion. Let's round things off with some comments before I get into my thoughts. Somebody said, "You're a great sister, OP." I would try to invite him over often, more so than just extending one forever open invitation. It'll make him feel more wanted. I'll definitely try to keep hanging out with him and invite him over more often, OP said. I'm also going to try to hang out with my sister more. I'm just going to try and have a better relationship with both of them. Yeah, maybe not your parents though, because those guys are ridiculous. Somebody else said, and quoted OP, "I have no idea what the F I'm doing." Well, actually, it sounds like you do to me. You care about your brother. That's all that needs to be done. Have you thought about introducing your brother to your pals at the station? Maybe give him a tour? OP said, "When I graduated fire school, we had like a family day. We brought our family to where we did our training for fire school, so they all know my brother, sister, and parents." Well, that sounds like a great idea then. And then finally, somebody said, "Whoa, a firefighter at 23. Isn't it hard to get in?" Well, not really. I know an 18-year-old in fire school right now. If you apply to the right county, almost everybody gets it. However, out of a class of 100, you'll notice only about 10 to 15 people will pass the entire thing. Actually, guys, before I get into my thoughts on the story, just a quick announcement from me for you engaged listeners, viewers watching right now. If you've listened to the entirety of this story and you're still here right now, this message is for you, so pay attention. You may not have heard me talk about this the other day, but I have started moving over some of my Reddit content onto my other channel, my second channel, Redditor Extra, namely the shorter episodes, much like this one, to have them over on that channel instead, which is much smaller, but I think it might be a better place to have the shorter episodes, the non-3-hour long Reddit Stories to Sleep 2 episodes. And that channel has over 5,000 subscribers now, so thank you so much for those of you that have already come across. There are 3 episodes on that channel, 3 separate Reddit stories, my normal sort of content, but over there, and importantly, they're not on here. So You will not find those stories on my main channel anywhere. They're not in any compilation, not in any one-off video. They're only over there. So if you want to listen to those and you're a fan of the shorter stories, please do go ahead and click the link in the description, or it will be on the end screen. You'll be able to click one of the 3 videos when we get to the end screen of this episode. It doesn't mean, by the way, that I'm not going to be making videos like this one on this channel. It's just that I want to transition to having the shorter videos on my second channel and keeping this channel mainly for the longer videos. And I think that will help both channels. So yeah, the best thing to do if you want to see both is just subscribe to both with notifications on. But yeah, if you don't want to miss any stuff from me, you need to go over to Redditor Extra, just type that in, or click the link in the description. Anyway, I'll give my thoughts on the story now. It's just a very, very sad story. I don't really blame your sister for this, by the way. I don't think she actually did anything wrong, did she? I know that OP mentioned about maybe her sister should have some professional help as well, but did she do anything? Like, she told your parents that she found her, whatever it was, clothes, wet and slimy in her brother's room. I don't think she's done anything wrong there. She's not said, oh my God, my brother's a creep. Maybe she did, but whatever. She is 17. I don't think it's up to her to make the decision of, you know, like familial disputes like that. However, like, you have a dog. That's the main issue I have with all of this. How do your parents not understand that it's pretty likely that a dog is going to pick up someone's clothes if they're not put away, and then obviously they're going to be wet? Like, it's just a coincidence, obviously, that the clothes were your sister's and they happened to be taken into your brother's room by your dog. How do you not think, oh, actually, maybe my son's not a creep, and, oh yeah, we have a dog who has a mouth. Also, maybe the dog's just a creep. Like, who's thinking about this? Okay, have a word with the dog. Get the dog to go and live with OP for a bit. And get the dog not to leave its room either. But no, just absolutely ridiculous response to a pretty obvious thing. Even if it doesn't immediately come to your mind that you have a dog and that this could have happened because of your dog, surely you'd have a conversation with your son first, rather than going, I knew you were weird, but not that weird. And then just, yeah, causing him to go into a depression. Like, it's just actually insane. But I don't know, clearly these parents are just very, very stupid, and they're going to have a lasting impact on their son's life. I found out that my younger sister was sent away to a religious camp for her sexuality by my evangelical parents, who lied and took money from me, I believe, to fund it. I am furious. I posted a thing here 2 years ago that helped me with an uncomfortable situation involving a boss at work, and it helped me save a good friendship and my job. So hopefully you guys can help me again with a much, much more serious situation. Now, this was actually originally posted to r/legal advice. I don't remember that account, so I've made a new one. I need to give a little background to explain the situation. I work as a computer engineer and live away from my parents. I moved out when I was 18, not because we had a particularly distant relationship, but because I was very hungry for independence and I didn't want to go to college like they wanted me to. I fell in love with programming and got a job a month after I graduated, and I've done that since. I'm extremely frugal, and I now make about $70,000 a year after taxes. Go Mr. Money Moustache. Both my parents are in traditional white-collar jobs that make significantly more money than I do, and they are horrific with money. When I was growing up, my parents were semi-religious, church on Easter and Christmas type of deal, and not particularly invested in it or politics. Somewhere in the last 3 or 4 years, they became interested. And in the last year in particular, regarding the last election especially, they've become some of the most religious and over-focused political people I've ever seen. I've tried distancing myself from this by refusing to talk about these issues over the phone at all. I couldn't disagree more with them. I think they have some very hateful views, but I've chosen not to engage them on it. Growing up, I was not close to my younger sister, mainly because of our age gap. However, she's grown up and is very pleasant to speak to. We've spoken on the phone daily. I speak to mum and dad much less frequently since she was around 14. I've not been exposed to too much of this because I intentionally tell both sides I don't want to talk about their drama, although I'm generally clear with my sister that I agree with her, but I don't want to badmouth her parents. My sister is a lesbian, which I have no issue with whatsoever, and my parents do not, or did not know, and would immediately be against it if they did. We talked about this quite often. My sister also has political views completely at odds with my parents. She was in trouble for not supporting their favourite political candidate. You can probably guess who. But I encouraged her to swallow it and suck it up at home for her safety and sanity. She mentioned a few times in the last 2 months about wanting to come out to them, and I highly discouraged it. I've heard both of my parents approve of a pastor who disowned his gay son and similar stories. I didn't want them to do that to her. I have offered to let her live with me when she turns 18, but I imagined that being in the future. I made her promise not to do that, and she did. On her 16th birthday though, she came out to them. I was a little angry with her over the phone. I didn't curse or scream or anything, but I was annoyed, but with sympathy for her position. I did chide her a bit, which I acknowledge was dumb. She was extremely mad at me and didn't call me for 4 days, which was a long time for us not to speak. We spoke afterwards and I was much better, but things weren't going well. They didn't kick her out, but they weren't speaking to her at all. Literally, she was screaming at them and they would just quietly go into their rooms, not saying a word. I offered to speak to them for her and she begged me not to, so I didn't, against my better judgment. My dad, a week later, called me over the phone. He said that he was sick and needed emergency money to have a procedure. He begged me not to tell mum or my sister. He needed about 20 grand. I'd refused the money in the past for a car loan and made it clear that I wasn't giving them money, but I did for this. Cautious, but ultimately trusting him not to lie about his own potential death. Yeah, I disagreed with him about a lot of things, but he'd always been so steadfast about the importance of honesty. The thought of him lying about something like that seems ridiculous, and I felt guilty for even thinking that. About another week after that, my sister stopped calling me. I thought she was mad again for some reason, but she didn't answer at all. I was worried. I called my parents and I asked about her after about a week, and they said she was being moody. I thought they thought I didn't know about her sexuality or what was going on. I checked my Facebook that night and I read a days-old message from one of her friends that explained that she had been trying to reach me and that my sister was taken from her house into a van and driven off by men in a program with her and my parents there before kicking the friend out of the house. Her friend visited my parents' house several times and they eventually told her they sent her to a religious program. She didn't get the name. I called up my father and he denied it twice before admitting it after a long talk. I was so angry. They seriously have these religious camps that parents can send teens to anytime without committing a crime forever. I didn't think it had anything to do with the money, but I looked it up after that and found out that these programs are generally very expensive. I called him up again and he admitted that's where the money went. I demanded that he let her out and he told me it was his money. I told him I'd never speak to him again and he just ignored me. I've tried calling him up every few hours for the last several days when I found out, and they ignore almost all of my calls. He intentionally didn't tell me the name of the facility or camp, but I've done reading and these are almost always dangerous places. I don't even know if she is in the US anymore. People die and get brainwashed at these places. I feel so guilty for giving them the ability to do this. I don't know the name of the camp and I did technically give them the money. My only recourse at this point is to go to tell everyone in the neighborhood what they did. I saw a Facebook post they made about sending my sister to a snooty Christian boarding school, and that is not what they did. I called the school they posted and she isn't going there. They're very connected to the church/suburban town community, and I think it would threaten them to have their image splattered with the truth. I would completely disown them now if it wouldn't completely destroy my chances of getting her out. I'm at a loss. Please help me. Wow. Okay, so there we go for the first post, and wow, what a start. Before I give my thoughts and jump into the comments though, I do just want to mention something very important for you guys watching right now, my engaged core audience. If you are watching this video on YouTube, you are one of those people. So listen to what I have to say next because you're going to find it very interesting. I want to trial something. So the next video I make will not be posted on this channel. It's going to be posted on my second channel called Redditor Extra. I'll show it on screen right now. There'll be a link down below in the description and the pinned comment. And tomorrow, I'm going to be posting a video on that channel on Redditor Extra, and it's not going to be posted on here. It's going to be a typical Redditor video, the ones that you know and love, but I'm going to post it on that channel and not on here. Now, To explain why I'm doing that, it's just an experiment, but I do want to see if a shorter video, so not a 3-hour movie length video, will perform better on another channel. So that's the reason I'm doing it. It's just an experiment, and also if you're listening on a podcast platform, nothing will change for you. Everything is still going to be in the same place. On YouTube though, if you want to catch tomorrow's video, then yeah, subscribe to the other channel, Redditor Extra. I'll leave a link, as I said, down below. Turn notifications on that as well. The thumbnail will be the same. It will all look the same. It will just be posted on a different channel. So if you don't want to miss that, and if you are one of my like key viewers that watches every single day, you are the sort of person that I want to bring with me to the other channel and really sort of like build a super engaged audience over there. I'm just trying things out. So come with me, link down below, subscribe to that channel, and I'll see you over there tomorrow with a video just like this one. But if you don't go over there, you may not see the video. So I'm giving you a warning, go over there and subscribe. I'm just testing things out really to see if the video will perform better, reach a more suitable audience over on that channel rather than on this one, which has been around now for what, almost 7 years, and has had loads of different iterations of content, loads of different audiences throughout COVID, etc. So just trialing it out and we'll see what happens. But one last time, if you want to watch tomorrow's video, it will not be posted on this channel. It will be on Redditor Extra. Go and subscribe. Okay then, let's get into the comments on this one. Somebody said, this is very, very difficult. Remember guys, this was posted on r/legal advice at first. So the comments, the help is going to be with that in mind. They say, under the law in most of the US and most of the world, parents have a right to decide how to raise their minor children. There are some facilities for brainwashing people out of being gay, which are so horrific that I have little better terms to describe them other than torture. In fact, a couple of US states have actually passed laws against these places, but that doesn't help much because parents have a right to send their children to someplace else that doesn't have such a restriction. There's very little you can do about it, legally. On the other hand, there is a major legal issue where you do have leverage. From your description, it sounds like there is a plausible argument that your father committed fraud to scam you out of $20,000. If you pursued this, there's a decent chance that you could get law enforcement involved, and it is not impossible that your father could be convicted of a felony for such a fraud. You certainly could sue to get the money back, and could probably get a judgment to garnish his wages, seize his bank accounts, and so forth until you've been repaid. The most obvious thing to do would be, quote, Dad, pull my sister out of that program and either let her live with you unmolested or else send her to live with me. If you don't, then I'll press charges and get you thrown in prison for fraud. Now, don't do that though, because that would be blackmail. At least I think it would, depending on the exact wording. With a very careful approach, it may be possible, depending on the exact details of the laws on blackmail in your state, which I do not know well enough to advise you on, to get that same message across without actually committing blackmail. If I were to do such a thing, I'd probably find a lawyer who could help me figure out how to use this without committing a felony of your own. Because if I understand you correctly, you're not happy about the $20,000, but your real concern is for your sister. My heart goes out to you and her, and I wish you the best of fortune and a successful outcome. What a great comment. Oprah replied, saying, it's worth mentioning that I do have 2 texts of him mentioning the need for money for the emergency and a short voicemail of him thanking me for the money. I don't know whether that would constitute proof or not, but I assume so. I would assume that he wouldn't be able to get a refund for the money anyway, and therefore unable to have the financial stuff get her out quicker without going the quasi-blackmail route. So I don't know. Anyway, thank you very much. Somebody else added, I have a very strong feeling that you should just look for a lawyer because nothing that we recommend should be taken into consideration really due to the serious nature of the situation. Find a lawyer to discuss if there is any way to gain custody of your sister, then talk to a GSA of some sort and find out what type of trauma she might end up dealing with and what to do if you get her, because who knows what they could be doing to her. Oh, horrible to think about. All right, update to come, of course, but I do just want to give my thoughts on how horrific this is, first of all. Some great advice there. My initial thinking is that there's not really that much that can be done legally. Like, if you give money to somebody in your family and they say it's for an emergency and it's not, yeah, it's like fraudulent, but is it legally fraudulent? I don't think it technically is, especially, well, at least I don't think it is in the UK. I don't know how the law works in America, but I think like if I get money from my parents and I say I'm going to use it for something, and then I actually use it for something else, and there's no like written agreement or contract signed, I don't think there's anything they can do about that. I'm not sure about that. Let me know in the comments down below. The main thing is, why do these camps exist in the first place? Like, that is the main point here. What are these things? Why would you ever send your kid to one of these? I didn't actually know that places like this actually really existed. I thought they were just made up for movies and like fiction. Are they actually real? Are they actually a thing? I've never really researched them, but I suppose they are. Religious camps to sort of try and change someone's sexuality. How ridiculous is that still exists in this day and age? All right, 2 days later, we got the following update. I got an incredible amount of varying advice and support that I really appreciate. I explained the situation to my boss, who was very supportive and gave me some time off without an issue to deal with this. Last night, I left home and drove to them. They live in another part of Florida, but we all lived there. And I tried having a rational conversation with my parents. I pointed out the abuse I was learning was regularly happening at these communities. I told them all the stuff I've learned about these places. I demonstrated that it wouldn't even change her sexuality or opinion, but they just called me a liar or ignored me. I've never seen my parents in a lower regard. I didn't even bring up the money because I had a feeling that if I mentioned it, my dad would kick me out. Both of them seemed incredibly nonchalant about the entire thing. Then I made an appointment with a lawyer, and then later another. Both of them were LGBT friendly and had at least some experience with similar situations, and both spent an hour explaining to me how I am completely legally screwed due to the nature of the gift, and that I have absolutely zero legal grounds in getting my sister out, and that without even the name of the place, I can literally do nothing. I'm completely screwed. One drilled into me that I shouldn't post about this to their friends, or it may make any legal action that could be possible later impossible. But both basically told me there wasn't a thing to be done. I was at my wit's end, and I had a last-ditch plan. I drove back to my father's home and told him I would give him my remaining savings, around 65k, but I lied and said 55k so I'd have something, if he took her out of the camp and let her live with me. I was amazed that he would even consider it because I always considered him such a high moral figure, but he stepped in the room with my mother for 5 minutes and said yes, but only if I didn't involve the police. I told him he would need to sign a contract and wait a few days, and he told me he may not have an issue with that. He needs to think, but he didn't want her legally in my name, although she can live with me, as he doesn't want to be on the bill for child support. I wanted to spit in his face, but I refrained. This just happened less than an hour ago. I made another appointment with another attorney tomorrow, but I don't think this is possible and I may not just show up at the office. If I give him the money without any obligation to return it, he'd just take it and do nothing. My idea at the moment is to agree to give them the money without a contract as soon as she is out and back at the house and I see her, and then take her and move to another state with her until she graduates. I can keep working in my current job from online until I get a new one. My father basically gave the impression that he'd completely disowned her anyway, and I don't think he would spend the money a second time to get her in another place, but obviously I'm just guessing. Obviously I cannot have a legal contract written where I buy custody of a minor. Can I have one where they promise not to send her to another institution like that? Like she must go to and graduate from X high school or something, or you must return the money? Is there anything I can do to make this work in a way where she is out and with me, whether in my name with custody or not, and they don't have legal grounds to come and track us down and send her somewhere else? This sounds insane, but I am insane. I'm so worried. I'm vomiting randomly from guilt and stress. I can't sleep, so I'm going to down a few sleeping pills so I can go to bed. Thank you very much. You have helped me immensely. It's disgusting how much the legal system can screw over innocent teens. I've never felt more angry during a 4th of July in my life. I don't know how we can profess freedom when stuff like this still happens and is legally justifiable. Okay, and without further ado, let's jump in to the final update of this one. This was posted 25 days later. This will be a short update, but the situation with my sister has ended on a positive note. It has been resolved. Currently, I'm in the hospital. I initially thought I had a bad flu from stress following the incident, but I wasn't getting better, and yesterday I went to the doctor. She ordered me to the hospital for a spinal tap, and I actually contracted bacterial meningitis, so I'm not doing so well in that regard. I'm bored and feeling like garbage, but I've got free time and I've been meaning to write because this was just resolved. If this isn't entirely coherent, I apologize. My brain is obviously a bit fried right now. This is going to be horribly shortened. So, I didn't give my father any money, and we both basically ended up pretending that I never offered the money and that he never theoretically accepted it. I found out the camp she was staying in. My mother frequently needs computer help, and it was one of those terribly described religious therapy camps several states away. I found several horror stories online from people who have attended this camp, and I showed it to my mum and dad and found a sympathetic religious figure from the community they both respected, and convinced them, after much struggling, to go and pick her up with me. We did, and ended up flying there and picking her up with a lot of trouble. They didn't want to let me in at all, and took an extremely long time letting her see us, which made my parents very, very mad, and my parents were very upset about the small parts of the facility we were allowed to see. They told us our sister would lie and that they should go without seeing her, which made them madder. I thought we were going to have to call the police, but we eventually got her out after many hours spent there. I was nervous she'd yell at them, but she knew to pretend she had changed without me needing to tell her. She's back home as of several days ago. I'm in the hospital as of yesterday. My parents are basically pretending they were tricked into the place being a 4-star resort, and they're laughing the whole thing off like they are equal victims in this, and this was all a wacky adventure where they stole my money and sent my sister to abusive gay prison. Me and my sister have discussed it privately, and we've agreed that she will not make any waves until 18, and then she can live with me during college. Sadly, we still have 2 years until then. I despise my parents, and I cannot say a thing to them, which is infuriating. I hate their hypocrisy and BS, but we both have to swallow it for the moment. I'm finished with them completely, and I plan never to speak to them again after my sister turns 18. This is written badly, but it's taken me forever, and I can't really think to write now. This is definitely missing info, but those are the main points. Thank you for all the advice. It's helped me get through the worst month of my life. Okay, so there we go. At least there was a positive ending to this one, but yeah, what a shocking story. I mean, first of all, the fact that this happened in the first place is shocking, like your sister being sent to a religious camp. The abuse that must go on there, I have no idea. Like, going to a camp where the whole point of it is telling you that you are not actually who you are. That is crazy. Like, how psychologically damaging must that be? Also, I have no idea what goes, like, how do you teach that? What is the practice that takes place there? If you know, I would say comment down below, but I don't really want to know. Like, it's just abuse, isn't it? It has to be. And then secondly, from your point of view, OP, I cannot imagine like the horror, the fear, knowing as this story progresses that you're the one that's actually bankrolled this whole thing. Obviously, you didn't know. It's not your fault. You're actually being really selfless and being a great person by in theory helping out your dad with his medical issues, but in reality knowing that your money is what's caused your sister to go to this ridiculous camp. I mean, that is just terrifying. So yeah, again, as I said, like, at least there was a positive outcome to this one and things should all be all right. But even like knowing now that you've had an agreement with your sister to sort of lay low for the next 4 years until she's 18, that's also terrifying. Like, surely something else is going to happen within those 4 years that could be life-changing once again. I don't know. Very scary situation, and I agree with your overall point that people, teenagers, legally can do very little about their lives and can be, completely horribly treated, like we saw in this story. Shocking story, but yeah, at least there was a decent outcome. My college says that if I miss class to testify at my assault trial, they'll drop me from my classes. I, intersex agender, was SA'd while home over a break, not by another university student, and the trial of my attacker starts in 2 weeks. I am a university student about 5 hours driving distance from my hometown where the assault occurred, and I'll need to travel there to testify at the trial. I'd spoken to my advisor and all my professors, notifying them of the days I'd be out, and everyone was understanding, giving me take-home versions of any tests or work I'd be missing. Unfortunately, one of the days I'll likely need to be out coincides with midterms, so my professor was required to get approval from the academic dean and dean of the college to issue a take-home midterm. His request for the take-home midterm was denied, and when it came to the attention of these deans, they contacted all my professors and informed me that if I missed that many classes, it would be approximately 2 of each class, maybe 3 depending on some court scheduling, and 4 of another class, but it meets every day of the week. They'll drop me from my classes. Now, my professors were comfortable marking these as reported absences, which basically means there was a justification, like a doctor's note or other official documentation. I showed the deans that I was in fact being called to testify by the defense, so it wasn't really like I even had a choice. I figured that would be enough documentation. The dean said that personal non-medical conflicts could not be counted as reported absences and would be treated as unreported absences. So treated as the same thing as if I just slept through the class. They suggested I apply for a leave of absence for the semester because otherwise I'd be dropped from my classes at the 3rd absence and be on probation if dropped from 2 or more classes. That was school policy. This attack took enough from me already. I went to great lengths to be sure I didn't miss a day of school while recovering. I don't want this man to derail my life further by pushing back my graduation date. I spoke to the Title IX office, who promised me they could help, but it turns out their idea of helping was helping me plan my leave of absence. I do not want to take a leave of absence. All my professors were ready and willing to work with me, and I was, and am, entirely capable of keeping up with the work. Do I have any legal recourse here against the school? Thank you in advance. Wow, well, I have no idea. I'm not American, so let's jump straight into the comments. Somebody said, what would the leave of absence entail that you are against it? Would it force you to retake all your classes? OP said, I would have to withdraw from the university for a full semester, leaving me to either spend all summer in school, thus unable to work full time, or graduate late, and there's no guarantee I'd even get my full tuition back. Somebody else commented, have you been served a subpoena? Does your university consider a court order as a legitimate excuse for missing class? If no and yes, ask the attorney to subpoena you and show that as documentation. OP replied saying, yeah, I've been subpoenaed and I showed the documentation to the deans. Unfortunately, it isn't just missing the midterm, it's missing any classes at all. And I have class 5 days a week and the court doesn't run on weekends, which is why they were pushing for me to take a leave of absence. I'll keep trying to push the subpoena as proof I absolutely need to be there to get justice, and it isn't like it's a fun outing for me, like I'm trying to skip class for a law and order type experience. Thanks. Somebody else said, I'd get that in writing from the dean and go over his head, because there's no possible way the campus legal team would be at all happy to know what he was doing, and I doubt the rest of the university administration would like their campus to be the focus of news reports on colleges forbidding victims of crimes from testifying in court. Make an appointment with whoever is immediately above your dean, maybe the chancellor depending on your university, and talk to them. That sounds like a very good set of ideas, by the way. OP said, thank you, I hadn't even considered the legal team because in my mind they're there to protect the administration / they are the administration. I'll look into that. Thank you. Somebody else commented, at most you'd be out less than a week for a trial. This whole thing doesn't make sense. They won't allow you to reschedule to take a midterm the following week? OP said once again, unfortunately the issue isn't just the midterm. The midterm is what brought my situation to the administration's attention though, but their main concern is with the absences. The minimum amount of time I'd need to be home for the trial would see me dropped from at least one class, likely more, which puts me on academic probation, so I'd then have to retake the courses over the summer or delay my graduation date to finish. I'm going to check into a proctored midterm at a college or library near my town to solve that issue and then try to address the absences through other means. This whole thing seems absolutely ridiculous. Let's get into the final comment before I give my thoughts. You should be able to get the court to work around your school schedule. Courts are often willing to consider a victim's legitimate life obligations. There may be a victim advocate you can speak to at the courthouse to help you navigate it. If not, your lawyer or the prosecutor can enter a request to change the date on your behalf. I hope it all works out for you. OP replied, thanks. Unfortunately, I do have classes 5 days a week and the court doesn't run on weekends, so no matter when I testify, it'll conflict. But I do have that in my back pocket if it would be easiest to schedule my testimony around my midterms instead of the other way around. So I'm keeping my options open with that one and discussing it with the prosecutor first thing tomorrow. I can't actually believe what I've just read there. Is this not like the most ridiculous thing of all time? I don't know if this is different or I've got sort of a different way of viewing this because I'm from London or I live in the UK. My university experience was not like this at all, where like if you missed a week or something, you were dropped from the course or like your place at the university was in danger. That just seems insane to me. But this, having the most legitimate excuse you could possibly have to not be in your classes, and then the deans say, no, you have to be in the class or again, like you're going to get dropped. That's insane. Like, what are they promoting here? They're saying they don't really care about your case. They're saying they don't care about your assault, pretty much. That is what they're saying, right? It's absolutely insane. When I was at uni, like, I could not go to classes pretty comfortably. Nobody would really care. It was sort of my choice, I suppose. We did have registers and stuff for seminars and stuff like that, so you couldn't really miss too many of them. But I was ill for a couple of weeks in like my first year. Didn't really get a doctor's note. I just sort of like didn't go. Then they just emailed me and said, "You all right?" I said, "Yeah, I'm ill." And it was as simple as that. It was pretty chilled. I feel like when you go to uni or college or whatever, you're an adult. You make your own decisions. You're the one that's actually paid to be there. It's a bit strange. Well, I guess that's the same with school as well if you go to a private school. But you get what I'm saying. You've chosen to further your education by paying to go to these schools or taking a loan out. Surely you can just then do with that what you want. But getting back to it, assaults and saying no, you can't go to your trial, that should not and cannot legally be a thing. That's my takeaway from this. This dean is just on one. That cannot be like the policy. That's ridiculous, as the commenter said there. If that made it into national news and it was dean doesn't let student go to their assault trial, like, that would be the end of this uni, surely. Or at least the end of the dean. That cannot be legit. Something has to be done here, I'm sure of it. And something can be done. That's the main point. I don't think you should just, accept defeat. We'll get into the update now and see what did happen, but I'm not looking ahead. Surely something was done that was a good solution for you. Okay, so let's get into the update then. This was posted over 3 weeks later. Thanks to everyone's terrific advice, I got my university's ombudsman involved and also reached out to a local survivors group, similar to Rain, who connected me to a wonderful attorney who facilitated between me and the legal services team at my school. Within a day of meeting with the school's general counsel, my attorney and I were invited to meet with the deans who had made that initial decision. One of my professors also apparently saw my legal advice post and put 2 and 2 together. This was originally posted in r/legal advice. My professors were not previously aware of the full extent of what was going on, by the way. Now, that professor and my other professors submitted a letter on my behalf protesting the administration's decision, copying the board, ombudsman, legal counsel, and high-level members of the administration, which was so incredibly touching. I'm still overwhelmed and trying to properly thank them. Between my professor's incredible gesture and my showing up with an attorney raising flags, at the meeting I was given carte blanche to work out the details of my absences between myself and my professors. I'll take them at school, just early. And 2 were able to give me modified assignments that could be done at home, but still exemplified the same knowledge and skill sets. The Ombudsman and the legal counsel assured me they are looking into the policy that caused this ordeal in the first place. The Ombudsman is making sure the policy is being correctly and reasonably enforced, for example, not used to coerce students into violating a subpoena, and the legal counsel is advising the administration on new guidelines for the policy so that nobody else has to experience this going forward. Thank you everyone here who took time to give me such helpful advice. I appreciate all of you. Okay, well, I suppose that was a good solution in the end, but I don't actually really care. Well, no, that's not true. I do care. I just think it's ridiculous that it got to that point, like, at all. How can the policy be such that if you have an assault trial and you can't rearrange it because you have classes on all 5 days of the week or the week, the working week, and then you have to go to it, you're then dropped from your classes? That's insane. So, right, I suffer a terrible thing happened to me. On top of that, and by the way, I have to say as well, OP has said that they didn't miss classes when they were going through that in the first place. Like, that as well is ridiculous. Surely there should be some sort of compassionate leave or something where in an event that happens, you get time off. I don't know. It's like the worst policy ever. At least it's been fixed, but I don't really care. Like, the fact that this wasn't a thing in the first place is genuinely disgraceful, but what can you do? I'm sorry, OP, that you had to go through all of that. Shout out to your professors, though, for doing the right thing. But again, if any of them didn't do that, I'd be shocked. Like, yeah, it's heartwarming, but also I expect that from any decent human being. The dean is an absolute clown. Me and my boyfriend of 3 years just had our first baby. We're white, and our baby is black. I have a close black ancestor, but my significant other is furious and is accusing me of cheating. This was posted back in 2015. As the title says, me and my boyfriend just had our first baby. I'm 26, he is 29. We were over the moon when we discovered the pregnancy, and we were both really excited to have a child together. We wanted to get married next year, and everything was going great. We were happy. We both look very white. We've got pale skin, blue eyes, brown and blonde hair. However, my great-great-grandpa was black, and some of his features have popped up here and there in our family. Kinky hair, darker skin, more black-looking facial characteristics. My boyfriend knows this, and has seen some of my aunts and uncles and cousins who have these features. I, however, don't have any myself, and neither does my mum. Our daughter was born 5 days ago, and I guess she got all the dormant genes in me because she's really dark-skinned compared to us, with really curly hair. I think she's adorable, but my significant other flipped. He accused me of cheating, that the baby couldn't possibly be his. I've never given him a reason to suspect me of infidelity, and I've certainly never cheated. We argued about it. I pointed at all my cousins and other relatives who have black features, but he absolutely refused to listen. Said our daughter looked, quote, too black for that to be a plausible explanation. He stormed out of the hospital, sent me a text an hour later that we were over, and when I got home from the hospital the next day, he wasn't there, and most of his personal belongings were gone. I tried to reach him, but he didn't answer my calls or texts until 3 days later when he told me he demanded a paternity test to prove that I was a liar. And if I refuse, I'll never see him again. I'm completely broken down and hurt over this. Our entire relationship, he's been so sweet and rational. This is completely unlike him. If he'd just calmly asked for a paternity test to begin with, I would have been hurt, but I guess I could understand the concerns. Our daughter does look nothing like him. But I don't think our relationship can survive this, even when I proved to him I wasn't lying. Should I go through with the test, or just cut my losses here and raise her alone? Okay, wow, what a return for me, back on the channel, back on Reddit. I expect nothing less. First things first, I completely get what you're saying, OP, because it's not the fact that the baby doesn't look particularly maybe exactly how you expected her to look. It's more the reaction from your boyfriend, which is the really, really damning thing. If I were you, well, it's a completely personal decision. I think maybe I would go through with it. You know, if you're 100% sure that, obviously you are, that it's your baby and it's his baby, then yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with doing it and then showing him the results and then gauging his reaction from that. And maybe that could help you sort of, begin to recover this relationship. Maybe it wouldn't, but I think you might as well go through with it. It's not really that arduous anyway. But those are my thoughts. Let's see what the people of Reddit had to say. Somebody said, that is your decision to make. However, in your situation, I'd do the paternity test either way. If you decide to leave him, it's a nice big F you to him. And if you decide to stay, he gets his peace of mind. It's a win-win situation, really. Exactly what I was saying, to be fair. I'd be hurt as F if my SO accused me of cheating, even though I've never shown any signs of it. However, I don't know how I'd react if I had a white girlfriend and the baby came out black. This is probably a 1 in a million type of situation, so I really can't say anything else about this. That's a very valid point, and I put myself in that situation. There is no doubt about it. As much as I'd like to say right now, sitting here, that I wouldn't have any doubts at all, I would. It's just a fact. I don't know how I'd react, but I would definitely have doubts. Somebody else said, you're going to actually need the DNA test for child support. so you may as well get one now. What you choose to do about the relationship is up to you, but you're going to need the child support. Great point. Opie replied saying, yeah, I've been so caught up in this whole drama and taking care of my baby, I hadn't even thought about child support. You're right. I'll get the test done, if only to make sure baby gets the best life possible. And Opie actually left an edit on the first post saying, I decided to get the test done. I'll update you all when I get the results. I'm still angry, but I guess I understand him a bit better now. Somebody else said, people are surprisingly ignorant of how genetics work. Anyway, get the paternity test just for his peace of mind, but understand that your relationship is irreparably broken and that he may sadly never show your daughter the sort of love or affection a father should show his child. This is a heartbreaking situation. I feel most for the baby, and you of course, but that little girl is going to face a lot of challenges in life looking like a black child to white parents. Talk to your more black-looking relatives about this and do research on how to talk to your daughter about her ancestry and prepare her for some of the more stupid, bigoted, ridiculous things that people are bound to say. Opie replied saying, yeah, I imagine things are going to be hard for her, but at least she has a loving mum and a family who can relate to her. I just hope my boyfriend, well, my ex, I don't even know anymore, will come around and treat her with the respect he couldn't afford to give to me. Opie also added a little bit more information just on her family history, so let's have a look at this before we get into the update which came 5 days later. 4 generations back, my great-grandma and all her siblings look really black. My grandma less so. My mum's generation is the first to have completely white-looking kids. And I don't think so, but my friends joke that my butt is so big I must have inherited that. But I don't think big butts are an actual racial trait, just more of a stereotype. There are plenty of white girls with big booties. I actually also just want to say one more point before we get into this update. I saw a TikTok or something the other day. I was just looking through like funny kids TikTok videos. Like toddlers TikTok videos, because I don't know, I saw one, I thought it was funny, just like random stuff that toddlers say when they have no filter. It's very amusing. Anyway, so what the situation was a mother had just had a baby with a new step parent, I suppose, who is black, and her kid from another man had come into the whatever you call it, the hospital, saw the baby, and like said off the cuff, like randomly, oh my gosh, I knew it wasn't going to be black. Like it was I mean, this is me saying this, it sounds a bit weird, but it was like a 2-year-old saying it. It was funny. Anyway, some of the comments there were saying, although it was very funny, and you'd have to see it to understand the humor, but trust me, it was funny. The dad burst out laughing. It was funny. They were saying, because the baby was actually, or looked pretty white in this video, they were saying, just you wait. Because melanin takes a while to develop in babies, which I thought was really interesting. I didn't actually know that, but yeah, I think that black babies actually often are born without the skin color that they're going to end up having, which I didn't really know. Now, I don't know how relevant that is to this example, as it's sort of potentially the other way around. Well, not the other way around. Your baby is just already dark. But the point is there a chance that your baby's skin color will change and your baby will turn out to look more like you and your husband down the line? I think, yeah. You don't just immediately have the genetics from your parents that are present and very obvious to see, I don't think anyway. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on that down below. Let's get into the update. First of all, I want to thank all the original commenters who helped me see my SO side and calm me down enough to take the test. Well, the results are in, and of course, she's his. The whole process was actually absolutely ridiculous. I got an appointment with the doctor and texted my boyfriend the time and location. He didn't answer, but he showed up, and the entire time he didn't say one word to me, and he didn't want to touch or even look at our baby. And he left as soon as they'd taken his sample, despite the doctor asking him to stay so we could go over a few things. Once he left, I just broke down. And I must say, the doctor was really nice. They didn't judge me or accuse me of anything, just calmly went over how the test works and told me that babies are often born darker than they actually end up being. Wow, was I actually right for once? I'm actually pretty happy with that. Okay, baby was an absolute champ, barely fussed when they drew her blood. I got the results yesterday. I texted my boyfriend the news and I asked if he wanted to come over and open it with me. After almost half an hour, he finally responded, yes, he'd like to come over. I'm thinking he either sent it while on his way or he's not staying very far away because he was here in about 15 minutes. Well, we opened it and read the positive test together. He turned white like a sheet and then just started bawling. I had to shush him because he was crying so loudly. And finally, I got an explanation for his flip out. I mentioned in a comment on the old post that he was an only child to very old parents. His dad died a few years ago and his mum lives alone a few hours drive from us. I've not met her often, but she seemed pleasant enough. Well, it turns out she hates me. Absolutely hates my guts and always has. I had no idea about this. She's always acted kind of snobby, sure, but I had no idea she disliked me this much. When my SO called her to tell her the good news 8 months back when we discovered the pregnancy, she started crying. He never told me this. And as the months passed, she continued being super negative about the whole thing and saying she doubted the baby was actually his. I was below them. Poor people cheat because they're raised in an effed up environment. What the F? And instead of talking to me about this, my SO kept silent while constantly doubting me more and more. The baby being black just put the final nail in the coffin that his mother was right and I was a good for nothing, cheating female dog. After telling me all of this, we just sat in silence for a while. Finally, he asked if he could hold our baby. I was still angry as heck, but decided that holding her was his right. He's her father after all. I went and got her from her crib, let him have her, and he started crying again, which scared her, and she started crying too. So they were just sitting there bawling together for a while. Finally, he stopped, handed her back, and asked if he could come home. I was kind of taken aback. I didn't expect him to just flat out ask that already. I laid out everything I said in the last thread, how insanely disrespectful and childish he's been, how he'd horribly broken my trust, hadn't talked to me about his mum's poisonous and ignorant comments, completely ignores me for 3 days, not telling me where he is or if he's even alive, and then he just waltzes in and wants to start living here again? I told him if he ever wanted to have some inkling of a chance of mending the relationship we had, to go to couples therapy ASAP. From now on, he will answer my calls and messages unless there's an emergency. He will not be staying here for a while. And finally, he needs to tell his mum to back the F off. She won't be seeing the baby until she apologizes to me in person. He immediately agreed and finally told me how sorry he was for this whole fiasco. I'm not sure if I can forgive him for this, but I'm going to try. We had an amazing life before this, and I hope that with a lot of work we can have it again. My SO also finally told me he was staying in a hostel, but it's not very expensive, so he can stay there for a while longer. Our baby's doing great considering how many stress hormones she must have been drinking from me these last few days. Her hair is falling out, but the doctor told me it was normal, and babies often lose most or all the hair they're born with. I'm hoping her new hair will grow in blonde. That would make her even cuter. Thank you all for your help on the last post. My mum agreed with many of you and thinks I'm absolutely nuts for trying to work things out, but I think it would be best for everyone if we at least give it a shot, especially our baby. Yeah, I think that's a great point. The easiest thing to do would be to get back with your SO, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the worst thing to do. I don't think it's like the easy way out. It may just be the best thing. So at least try that first. Then if you want to down the line, you can take the hard route of completely breaking up, moving out, eventually having to find a new partner if you want to do that, etc., like raising your kid in a split family. It's easier to just try it with him first and see how that goes, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But yeah, I don't know how to feel about this guy. I'm inclined to agree with your mum, and we've had like guys especially like this on the channel before in stories similar to this, where they're just so spineless. Really? Like, just because your mum has been whispering in your ear for the last 8 months that the person that you fell in love with and have decided to have a baby with is actually like not the person you thought they were, in her opinion, you then change your entire opinion because of that? I don't think that is right, and I think that says a lot about his character personally. So use that information, I think, just as much as everything else that's happened. And I don't know what I'd do in this situation. I think I would try and get back with him and see how that goes. But I would struggle to look at him the same way again, knowing that he's just listened to this absolute trash from his mum for the past 8 months, and that's changed his whole opinion on you and his baby. I broke my wife's heart. How do I save my marriage? This was originally posted back in 2016. I am a 29-year-old man, and my wife, who is 28, and I have been married for 4 years, together for 6. I love her deeply. However, recently I've developed an infatuation for a woman I work with. I didn't cheat, and I have a strictly work relationship with her. I recognise my feelings as a mere crush, but still felt guilty and needed to talk about it. About 2 months ago, I posted on a forum, not Reddit, about this woman, and I found sympathy. It helped me understand how crushes in a long-term relationship work. A month ago, I came home to my wife having printed my post. She confronted me, and as I was taken by surprise, I didn't really know how to explain myself. I couldn't lie either, so I just apologized to her. She read me my post while crying. I cannot post it entirely here, but basically I said she was a, quote, breath of fresh air, the reason I'm happy to go to work. I wish I could hold her in my arms and know how she smells. I often dream of her. Sometimes I lie down and imagine her in front of me, end quote. These were things I was thinking but couldn't say out loud. They were things that could have been written in a diary. They were private thoughts, and I never imagined my wife would read them. In the end, it's just a fantasy. Ever since that day, my wife has barely spoken to me. She refuses to discuss it and won't look me in the eye the rare times she addresses me. She moved into our guest room. She told me she was getting ready to divorce and would file when she has enough money, and that I shouldn't hope that I'm free to pursue that woman. I understand why she is hurt, but it's just an infatuation. It's not comparable to the love and history I have for her. How can I get it through her? She told me she never had feelings for another man and that I betrayed her. She won't stay married to a man who yearns for another woman. I told her I would change jobs, but she just said I'll still dream of her. She is completely closed off. What can I do? All right, let's jump straight into the comments here, because this is a tough one. I mean, you've really shot yourself in the foot here, but you're not the first person to be in a long-term relationship and have a crush on someone else. It's just a shame that you've posted it online and your wife's found out about it. Anyway, let's get into the comments. Somebody said, so have you gotten a new job yet? What have you done to show your wife that you're serious about your marriage and that she's the only one who matters to you? That is a great point. It shouldn't take you saying to her, I'll get a new job, and then her saying, well, you're just going to still think about her. Just get a new job. Like, you want to cut as much contact with this woman as you can. But yeah, show your wife that you mean what you say and that you are willing to sort of like, yeah, do anything in your power to stay with her. OP replied, she won't let me talk to her or touch her. Sometimes she will leave the room when I come in. She's like a wall. I tried buying her favorite flowers and wrote a card, but she didn't take them. I am invisible to her. I was looking for jobs when I informed her I would change jobs to avoid the woman, but she told me not to bother as she was leaving. In this economy, I cannot easily risk being unemployed, especially if I'll end up divorced. But then again, that's the point, right? If you really did want to stay with her and you want to prove your loyalty, you would move jobs. So I think if you do want to stay with her, and maybe you don't, by the way, but if you do, then you definitely have to leave your job. Somebody else said, there's an innocent crush, and then there's wanting something to happen between the two of you. Your wife knows this, everybody knows this, and you should know this. You wanted to hold your co-worker in your arms, etc., etc. It's not the fact that you have a crush on someone. It happens naturally and it's human nature. It's the fact that you have a crush and wanted things to happen between you two, and that's what broke your wife's heart. Also, in the first place, if you wanted to keep your thoughts private, you shouldn't have posted it on the internet. That's actually a very good point, and I need to sort of think about what I said earlier. I meant what this user has just said, as in everyone, has crushes or thinks that other people are good looking or whatever. You're right, though. It's one thing thinking that someone else is good looking or having a crush on them. It's another actually thinking to yourself, I want to be in their arms and know what they smell like. That's another step. Anyway, 5 months later, July the 3rd, 2016, we got this update. I'd forgotten about this post and I am back to update, so maybe seeing my stupidity could prevent someone else from making the same mistakes. I cringe when I read today what I wrote months ago, and it seems ridiculous to me that I could have felt this way about another woman. I wrote that I would imagine my former co-worker while lying in bed, but in the end, when my wife stopped acknowledging my existence, waking up without seeing her face was just absolute torture. I really took all I had for granted until I almost lost it. So I took some of the advice and decided to court my wife again the hardest I could. Of course, the first step was looking for another job, and it took me a month, but I managed to find a similar position in another enterprise. That is good to hear. I did what was suggested, of taking over every chore, and she stopped ignoring me, but would simply stare at me with some kind of hostility and go on with her life. There we go, that's progress. I tried flowers, but she would leave them to die. My wife's dominant love language is physical, but I wouldn't dare try touching her, so I went for telling her. I somehow realised it was really the content of what I wrote about the other woman, which obviously, when you are deep in a crush, is amplified, that really hurt her. I tried engaging her in conversations so we could talk about what was happening to us, but more importantly what I did to her, but she remained closed off. And so I started writing her letters and would leave them under her pillow. At first I apologised for everything, for writing the post, for not putting an end to the crush faster, for making her feel like another woman could hold a higher place of importance to me, and for not taking the initiative to change jobs earlier. For making her life hard by creating this situation, which ended in her sleeping in the guest room of her own house, for making her cry and causing stress to her. Then I wrote her love letters, telling her how much I loved her, how the crush couldn't compare to the deep love I have for her. I was chewed for saying I loved her because of our history in my last post, but I was misunderstood. I meant that the love I have for her has gotten stronger with time. 5 years ago I loved her, but wouldn't have given her one of my organs if she needed one, for example, while now I would without hesitation. Our history is what caused the attachment to grow stronger, therefore no random crush could override that. I was awed in front of my crush and wrote sappy things about her, but in the end I do not know this woman on a personal level, while I've seen the worst of my wife and the love remains. I told her how beautiful she was and how impressed and proud I was with her development as a person since we've met, how grateful I was for her presence in my life, and every single thing I was thankful for that she did and enhanced my life, how much I needed her and missed hearing her tell me how her day went, laugh at my bad jokes, and basically just missed hearing the sound of her voice. This is a small sample, but it must have taken a good 3 weeks of daily letters until she answered me back. She answered with a letter of her own, telling me how much I have hurt her with my crush, how I made her feel invisible next to that woman, how I never told her such loving words until the letters, how much she hated me, but also how she loved me and missed me too. Her letter allowed me to feel her vulnerability. After reading it, I cried and went to see her. We locked eyes, she cried, and we held each other for a long time. She started talking to me again and softened. Honestly, the possibility of the marriage ending just like that scared the both of us. As of today, we are, to my surprise, mostly back to normal, and actually I feel closer to her. We continue with the letters, which have helped increasing our emotional intimacy. I make an effort to tell and show her my love. I'm very grateful that she's given me a second chance, and even more so that she has decided to put the crush behind us. We had maybe 2 fights since, but she hasn't brought it up and she doesn't punish me. It really wasn't the crush on itself, but how I went about it and the lack of affection from my part in comparison. Maybe I'm being optimistic here, but I truly think we're going to get through this. We'll be going to couples counselling after our vacation just to make sure things are really settled between us. Wow, that is a very positive ending to this one. A couple of comments to finish things off before I give my overall thoughts. Somebody said, "It's nice how hard you're trying. The thing you need to continue to work on is not stopping this once you've got her completely back." For me, I would never get over what you said. I would have filed for divorce immediately. I'm glad things are working out for you though. And OP replied to this saying, "Thank you, I do not plan on stopping. I realised I wasn't putting enough work into my marriage before." Somebody else said, "Yeah buddy, save the letters, and when you have a fight or you forget how much you love her, you break that out and remind yourself." And finally, somebody said, "I would kill or die to see my late wife again for even 1 second. Treasure her and don't F up
again.
Okay, and there we go. That is the first episode on this channel in a very long time that I think has had a positive ending, which is lovely. But I do agree with the comments as well. Like, this is sort of just the beginning. I also think it's quite hard. Like, you can't keep up that level of affection forever. Or, like, you know, doing all the chores. Or continuing to write, like, I mean, maybe you could. I'm not sure about all the chores, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to have to come back down a little bit at some point. I'm sure it would naturally. But, yes, I do agree with the comments. Like, don't take this for granted. Especially that final comment. I mean, that hits hard. I would kill or die to see my late wife again for even 1 second. Treasure her and don't screw up again. Woof. Yeah, there you go. I mean, that's good advice, isn't it? From people saying, look, just remember throughout all of this, no matter what happens, this all has made you realize how much you love her. One key line there in that, though, that you said was how I never told her such loving words until you wrote the letters. Therefore, like, I kind of get it from her perspective. She's probably like, I've never seen or heard the affection from my partner that some random colleague at work is getting. Like, how is this fair? Like, imagine how painful that would be reading that about another woman. So from her perspective, I get it. Maybe it's sort of what you needed yourself to wake up and realize that, like, actually, yeah, you haven't shown us enough affection to your wife. But also, I don't know, maybe you should have done it already. That's a bit weird. I don't know. I also do, I don't know, it's a little bit weird thinking, like, I want to know how a woman at work feels in my arms. You see what I'm kind of saying? I'm like, I don't know, I'm not fully buying this, really. And I do agree with that comment that said, like, if that was done to me, I would have divorced. As always, easier said than done in the moment, but still, I'll take your word for it, but you've got a long way to go, that's for sure. Am I the jerk for calling my husband a disgrace after he said my miscarriage ruined his birthday? The original post here was posted on April the 18th, 2025. And there's an obvious trigger warning throughout this of loss, miscarriage, but also abuse, attempted murder, and also unaliving too. So you've been warned. This obviously is going to be a pretty challenging listen. I miscarried yesterday afternoon at about 12 p.m. I've never had a miscarriage before, and this baby was so wished for, so it's all so fresh, and I'm sobbing right now. So I apologize in advance if it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. My husband turned 27 yesterday. I, a 26-year-old woman, was pregnant with mine and my husband's second child. Yesterday, I was 8 weeks pregnant. The day before yesterday, we saw a beautiful heartbeat flicking on the screen, and today, I'm devastated. I was playing with our 2-year-old when I felt a pressure in my lower abdomen. Not long later, I noticed bleeding, and I let my husband know immediately that I had discomfort and bleeding. Before long, I had passed what I believe is the fetus, and I messaged him, I think I lost the baby. I wanted to keep him updated, and I guess I was seeking some kind of emotional support. I asked if he could come home, and he said, of course, if it's urgent. I said, I think it is, because the pain and bleeding is getting worse, and I'm starting to feel lightheaded, and our 2-year-old is unattended in his playroom right now. We have no friends or family near that I could call who would get to us quicker than he could. I had to clean myself up, crawl downstairs to take paracetamol, make my son his lunch, and then put him down for a nap. At this point, my husband still isn't home. He was working approximately 30 minutes away and took closer to 60 to get back. Hours later, when I asked, it was because he'd stopped at Tesco to pick up some beers. I ended up very poorly, losing lots of blood, lightheaded, vomiting, etc., and he had to take me to A&E. By the time I was discharged, it was almost 8 p.m. Last week, I had said I'd make him his favourite dinner for his birthday, which he reminded me when we were almost home. I said I wasn't feeling up to it and that whatever takeaway he wants is on me. He said, for F's sake, under his breath, and then muttered something along the lines of, this BS has ruined my birthday. He didn't stop to get any takeaway, he just drove straight home. He put our son to bed and I went to bed, and I'm not sure what he did after. I didn't see him this morning as he'd already left for work. He's not messaged me all day and he got home a few hours ago. It's now 8:40 p.m. and he's been giving me silent treatment. I tried to speak to him about an hour ago, but he ignored me, and I called him a disgrace. He slammed the bedroom door and locked me out of the bedroom. His mum has since messaged me and said I needed to be patient as he's also had a loss. She didn't ask me how I was though or anything. He's obviously speaking to his mum, but why isn't he opening up and speaking to me? She said that I was being harsh. I'm feeling utterly emotionally neglected right now. My body has been through emotional and physical hell. I understand that my miscarriage came at a frickin' inconvenient time for him, as it was his birthday and all. I'm not sure if it's the hormones making me feel crazy, but is it nuts to contemplate divorce? Am I the jerk for calling him a disgrace? Absolutely not, and I think a divorce is the only solution. What have I just read? Okay, so there is some more information in the comments down below of this first post, which we'll get into right now. First of all, OP clarifies, off topic, I am on annual leave and return to work on Monday. I've already told a handful of my close co-workers that I am pregnant. I've got no idea how to navigate this. What's the best way to tell people that I'm no longer pregnant? Do I just say? Do I wait for them to ask? I feel so stupid for telling people so soon, so I've put myself in this position. What's the least awkward way to address it so that there are absolutely no follow-up questions? I don't want to discuss it any more than I have to because I just keep breaking down. Thanks. Somebody replied to this saying, you tell the person you're closest to spread the news for you and tell them to make it clear you don't want to talk about it. Yeah, that is very good advice. Somebody else commented, go to your doctor and get signed off. I haven't personally been in your situation, but I had a close friend who went through similar. Her doctor offered her 2 weeks initial certificate and more if she needed it. She ended up wanting to go back earlier, but he said it was her choice. Definitely take some time to yourself. You've gone through a massive trauma and need time before you have to face work. As for your husband, you're definitely not the jerk. If I could, I'd use much stronger language than you did. Both he and his mother should be absolutely ashamed of themselves. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I know you said you have no family close by, but is there anyone you and your son can go to stay with for a while who will give you the love and support you deserve? OP actually replied to this saying, are you in the UK? I'm in England and my doctor's surgery is closed until Tuesday because of the bank holiday weekend. Do you know if out of hours GPs are able to sign me off work? My work involves closely monitoring new members of staff, assessing them and signing them off to work independently. I need to be able to focus completely as there is no room for error and be smiley and friendly. I don't think I'm able to do this right now, but I'm not sure how to get signed off as I'm back in work on Monday. I'm not sure if that makes sense. Surely you just call your boss and tell them and take it from there, right? Now, the top comment on all of this was this. Importance. You are still at risk of infection at this juncture. It's still dangerous for you. Monitor your bleeding and temperature. Your marriage is over. How long you stay with him is up to you, but this man is neither husband nor father material. He cares more about his wants than your or your child's needs. It took a crisis like this to show who he really is. You're not the jerk, and I'm so sorry you're going through all of this. OP then continued to ask a few more health-related questions, just checking to see if the people of Reddit thought she was all right. She has a fever as well, tonsillitis, so that is not really helping because you can't tell if the fever is from the tonsillitis or obviously due to the miscarriage. But yeah, she said a few hours later that she's going to go in to A&E for peace of mind. Thank you guys for your advice. I'll try to respond to the comments in regards to my husband when I'm feeling better and have recovered. It's just been a hellish day and a half. Exactly. Terrible day, but the most important thing right now is to make sure that in a health sense, you are okay. Now, just for sort of proof that this happened, I suppose. Well, I don't know if it's, I mean, do we need proof this happened? No, but OP has anyway posted these screenshots. If you're not in the UK, you won't know what this is, but if you're in the UK, you'll know how legit this is. This is the NHS's app, and everyone sort of has an account, I suppose. I mean, I've got one on my phone as well, and this is sort of like the online database to show what is going on with you right now, any prescriptions, any future appointments you have, any health conditions like you can see on screen right now, and yeah, as you can see, threatened miscarriage, morning sickness, etc., is on there, and then documents as well, such as referrals or any other thing. I'm having an MRI quite soon on my shoulder. That's going to be in this app, well, on my profile. But yes, very legit stuff. Not that it needed to be, but yeah, this obviously definitely happened. Now, just 2 days later, OP actually left a mini update in the comments of her first post saying this: I'm not sure how to do an update or if anyone will see this, but I've left my husband. Me and my son are staying with family and we're safe. I have another scan tomorrow morning to make sure I've passed everything successfully. Thank you to everyone who had reached out and offered advice. It's been really helpful. And I started antibiotics for my tonsillitis on Saturday, and I'm already feeling much better. Well, that is good to hear. And I agree with your decision. I think he has to go. That reaction is just absolutely insane. Okay, and then on the 23rd of April, 5 days after the original post, we got a proper update. I should have clarified in my original post from last week that the way my husband responded was completely out of character for him. He's usually a caring and supportive man and is a good husband and father. Yeah, that's a good point, because I was kind of thinking, well, you have a 2-year-old with this man and you're like, can you come home? Like, as in, you're not split up or anything. It seemed okay, but then this, crazy. The only incident where he's shown any kind of red flags was when I put together an accent chair. I used a screwdriver to attach the legs to the seat, and when he came home from work and saw that I'd done it myself, he jumped on it until it broke to show that I didn't do it properly and that I should have waited for him to come home. He'd been under lots of stress at work, so I asked him to go to therapy, which he did, instead of pulling the divorce card straight away. We've been together for 7 years in May, and he's the only partner I've ever known. My family all love him and have accepted him from day one. Okay, that is a massive red flag. Like, that is just such a weird thing to have done, and it makes me think that there are actually loads of other smaller red flags that he's probably shown that you may not have picked up on or didn't think were that bad. Like, destroying something that your partner's done just because you should have waited for them. That's insane. Anyway, OP continues. I also should have clarified, yes, I know he was a jerk in this scenario. I wasn't questioning that. What I was questioning was whether I took it a step too far, calling him a disgrace. You didn't, by the way. He's going through a lot at work at the moment. It was his birthday. I've been messaging him and telling him that I'd miscarried his child and he had to leave work early. And then I called him a disgrace after he'd taken me to the hospital and was responding to the grief in his own way. I think the majority of people said that I wasn't the jerk in this scenario, and due to his behaviour, my insult was justified. Thank you to everyone who reached out, checked in, offered condolences and emotional support. I've read all my messages and tried to read most of the comments. Most of them have been very kind and useful and have helped a lot over the past few days. I had a scan yesterday which confirmed that everything has passed successfully. Some people may remember that I was very worried about retained tissue due to my fever over the weekend. Also, my tonsillitis has fully cleared up, so I'm feeling almost back to normal physically. I left my husband. Me and my son are staying with family in a different part of the country, so we're safe and managing. My husband did get very angry when I told him I was leaving him. He tried to stop me from leaving with our son, put hands on me, and threatened to end his life. My mum intervened and, like I said, we're safe. I have some time off work now, so I'll continue to take time to recover emotionally and plan my next steps. Thank you if you've read this far. I doubt there will be any more updates after this. Well, just so you know, there is one more, and it actually comes just a week before I'm recording this on the 9th of June. Before we get into that though, first of all, some comments. Somebody said, I'm glad you left him, but I'm concerned you'll go back based on how this post is written. You're still speaking about him like he's a good husband and you're justifying his behavior. Stop doing that. Make a therapy appointment for yourself. OP said, yeah, but he's not here to defend himself, so I'm trying to make it as fair as possible from both sides so he's not made out to be a monster. I have a therapy session booked. I will not be returning to him as he's not someone that I want my son to grow up watching and witness that behavior thinking it's normal. Somebody else sort of added to this saying, I'm not going to lie, I had no idea where this post was going. It seemed like you defended his behavior, then you dropped the chair incident on us, then you continued to defend him. By the last paragraph, honestly, I felt like I'd whiplash. Regardless, I'm happy you're away from him and you're safe because he's definitely not a good person. Stressed or not, that's not how sane people conduct themselves. Please do not let him guilt you into going back to him. He is dangerous. And I think that is the main point, right? Stressed or not, going through grief, going through shock, whatever, there's reactions and then there's reactions. And smashing up a chair is just insane. And also saying, oh, it's my birthday, you've ruined my birthday because you've had a miscarriage is also insane. Also, why do you care about your birthday that much when you're an adult? It's just sort of weird. Like, grow up, you're not 2. Actually, I just realized your husband turned 27 yesterday when you wrote this on April the 18th. So your husband's birthday is on April the 17th, which funnily enough is my sister's birthday. My birthday, my 27th birthday, is in 3 days at the time of recording, the 12th of June. And I know that if my non-existent partner has a miscarriage on that day, oh boy, there'll be trouble. Anyway, OP replied to the comment saying, sorry, I'd like to say that I'm feeling better emotionally, but I'm not. I've kind of just word vomited like it's a diary entry in a sense. I'm going to start journaling from now so that I'm not just rambling to a load of strangers. Well, you know, sometimes rambling is the best way, and people that use Reddit as their sort of journal, I gotta respect it. Finally, somebody else asked this, and I think this is an interesting thought really. I'm curious why people do stuff like breaking other people's things. I had made something 3D printed, and a coworker said to me, it looks flimsy. Then they took it somewhere I couldn't see and smashed it with a hammer. Like, it was beyond a reasonable thing that would ever happen. In that moment, she had a narcissistic demand that I somehow upstaged her, so she smashed my stuff out of jealousy. It baffles me. It was literally just like your husband did, doing something intentionally beyond its normal use to begin with, to intentionally destroy it. Yeah, that's a good point. Like, who's going to jump up and down loads as an adult on a seat, on a chair? Odd. I read your post twice, and I think your husband is having a mental breakdown from work and has developed a narcissistic personality disorder, probably from the stress. Maybe, or maybe we're just not hearing the whole story here and he's just actually like that and always has been. OP has said to this, I was thinking maybe he was having some kind of mental breakdown and our miscarriage was the final straw. He said that when he stopped at Tesco to get some beers, it was for the both of us, so we could drink our sorrows away. I was planning on getting him some help because he clearly needs it. He only acts insane when he's under immense pressure at work, genuinely. When he broke my chair, it was around the time of immense stress at work. Yeah, fine, you can be really stressed, but you don't break something that your partner's done. Again, there are like limits. But when he put his hands on me, he actually put his hands around my neck and was choking me, which is what is terrifying. Okay, yeah, now the whole thing comes out. I can't look at him the same, so I can't be the one to get him the help. I'm looking into full custody and solicitors so that I never have to see him again. That is disgusting. Okay, and now for the final update. This was posted, as I said, on June the 2nd. That is 6 weeks after the original post and just a week ago at the time of recording. OP said this: I need to start this off by asking that if anyone takes the time to comment on this, please do not leave negativity or insults, as I'm extremely emotionally vulnerable and I truly feel terrible. When I updated about 5 weeks ago, I didn't think I'd have to make another update, but in short, I'd left my husband and he'd forcibly tried to keep me in the house by putting his hands around my neck. It was really frightening, and in that moment, made me feel completely confident in my decision to leave. Since that day, I haven't had any contact with my husband. As I was leaving, he was screaming that he'd unalive himself if I left. It's not the first time he's threatened this in our relationship, but I called his mum once I was in the car to let her know. She said she'd go over to see him, and I didn't hear from her for another week or so. Oh my God. About 2 weeks ago, my husband was found dead in our family home. I'm angry, hurt, devastated, relieved, what? And most of all, guilty. I feel so guilty that he's dead. If I hadn't have left, I'm certain he'd still be alive, but I can't be certain that I would be, or that our son would be. I don't know how much sense I'm making. I just know that there were some people worried for mine and my son's safety. Please be kind. Please reach out to loved ones or your local services if you're struggling. Wow. Well, that concludes a ridiculously sad story. I mean, what the flip? I actually do kind of get what you're saying, OP, at the end. Initially, when I read that, I thought, what, relieved? Really, that your husband's unalived himself? But I get what you're saying, because, yeah, he would probably still be alive if you hadn't have left. But as you say, would you or your son be? Somebody actually left a comment down below saying, I know somebody who was being abused by her husband. One day, she had a bad feeling, got her kids and went to stay with someone she knew. It turns out the husband had made some sort of barricade and was going to kill her when she came home. When she didn't come home, he unalived himself. And this commenter says this is exactly the kind of stuff that probably happened here, which is just terrifying. Wow, that might be the most sort of shocked or taken aback I've ever been reading one of these posts. I just didn't expect that. It was already a pretty devastating story, got even more devastating.